Hello, and thank you for joining the August Economic Development and Industrial Corporation of Boston board meeting. At this time, the Boston Planning and Development Agency is continuing to host public meetings in a virtual setting for the health, safety, and accessibility of Boston residents. For more information and updates, visit bostonplans.org. The Open Public Meeting Law requires that I notify the public that this meeting is being recorded. Please be aware that an audio and visual recording of this meeting is being made and broadcast by Boston City TV, which is a part of the City of Boston Office of Cable Communications, at Xfinity Channel 24, RCN Channel 13, and Verizon Fios Channel 962. It is also being live streamed at boston.gov/cable. I will now take a roll call to begin this meeting. Mr. Monahan?
Present.
Dr. Landsmark?
Present.
Mr. Miller?
Present.
And I, the chair, Priscilla Rojas, am present. So, first item on the agenda, request authorization for the approval of the minutes of the July 14th, 2022 meetings. A motion is in order.
So moved. Second.
Roll call for a vote. Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Item number 2, request authorization to amend the license agreement with Boston Print Specialists LLC, doing business as Alpha Graphics Boston, for the continued use of cage B2 in the basement of 12 Channel Street within the Raymond L. Flynn Marine Park. Dennis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Alpha Graphics has been attending 12 Channel Street on the 8th floor since 2017. As the name implies, they're a printing graphics company. Shortly after moving into the building, Alpha Graphics entered into a separate license for a 969 square foot storage cage in the basement of 12 Channel Street. They've been using the cage ever since and currently pay $650 per month for the period. The current space lease with Alpha Graphics expires in 2025, and we would like to amend their lease to add the 969 square foot cage to the leased premises for the duration of their lease. The additional fee for the cage will be increased to $807 per month. That fee was determined after a recent BPDA market study of storage units in South Boston, Dorchester. So we're asking permission today to amend the lease with Alpha Graphics to incorporate the 969 square foot storage cages located in the basement. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Do we have any questions from the board? Hearing and seeing none, a motion is in order.
So moved. Second.
Roll call for a vote. Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Item number 3, request authorization to enter into a lease agreement with Blue Institute Labs PVC for the use of Suite 505, which is approximately 1,200 square feet on the 5th floor of 12 Channel Street within the Raymond L. Flynn Marine Park. Dennis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Suite 505 in 12 Channel Street is approximately 1,200 square feet. It's one of our smaller suites, but it does consist of a receiving area, 2 small offices, and a conference room. The suite, however, is not air conditioned. Blue Institute Labs is a woman and veteran-owned public corporation. They are focused on innovative solutions to clean water, climate resiliency, and healthy oceans. To that end, they provide support to climate solution startup companies through business development, technical support, piloting, collaboration, and funding. We think it'd be a great addition to the ecosystem down here in the Marine Park. We're requesting permission to enter into a 3-year lease with Blue Institute for Suite 505 in 12 Channel Street. The fixed rent will start at $32 per square foot, or $38,400 in the first year. During the term of the lease, we would receive $115,200 during the 3 years. Blue Institute was not represented by a real estate broker in this case, so there will be no commission paid for this transaction. Thank you. I'm available for any questions.
Thank you. Do we have any questions or comments from the board? Hearing and seeing none, a motion is in order.
So moved. Seconded.
Roll call for a vote. Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Item number 4. Thank you. Request authorization to advertise and issue a request for proposals for a licensed engineering consultant for the waterfront infrastructure survey and assessment at BRA-owned and EDIC-owned properties. Laura.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Madam Secretary, and members of the board for the opportunity to join you today and advance the procurement of a qualified maritime engineering firm to inspect, assess, and make recommendations for repairs and improvements to the waterfront infrastructure owned by the BPDA. I'll note this is a joint procurement covering both EDIC assets in the Raymond L. Flynn Marine Park and BRA infrastructure in the downtown waterfront and Charlestown Navy Yard, so I'll present this matter again later today. Unlike buildings, roadways, and other types of infrastructure that are easily available for inspection, the waterfront is a unique challenge for regular assessment, as critical components of its piers, wharves, bulkheads, and seawalls are underwater. Therefore, this contract will provide for an engineering assessment of our most vulnerable assets, including underwater diving by specialized engineers. The findings and recommendations will identify both critical urgent needs as well as capital planning needs for the next 5 to 10 years. The contract is budgeted at $100,000 and will be advertised following the BPDA's designer selection policy, including broad outreach and a qualifications-based selection process. Thank you, and if there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them at this time.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments from the board? Hearing and seeing none, motion is in order.
So moved. Seconded.
Roll call for a vote. Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Mr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye, motion passes. Item number 5, request authorization to execute a 1-year contract with Casablanca Services Incorporated with 2 1-year options to renew for snow plowing, shoveling, removal, and salting sanding services within the Raymond L. Flynn Marine Park in an amount not to exceed $225,000. Laura.
Thank you once again, Madam Chair. As Boston's heat wave cools down, I'm excited to be here to discuss not only diving underwater, but also to award a contract for snow removal, particularly within the Raymond L. Flynn Marine Park. We all know how important snow removal is to our goal of neighborly service, that is, managing our properties as though we live next door. This contract in particular will care not only for the roads, but also the brand new protected bike lanes and other mobility improvements within the Marine Park. The opportunity was publicly advertised with 28 plan holders who downloaded the documents and both virtual and in-person information sessions. Of the 3 responses we received, Casablanca Services is the responsible and responsive bidder with the lowest total bid price. They're a certified minority-owned business entity and have successfully provided similar services for the BPDA's downtown waterfront, as well as the Boston Mayor's Office of Housing. We're excited to grow our partnership with Casablanca and to reap the success of the agency's affirmative outreach to diverse businesses. I'm proud that of our 6 snow removal contracts, 4 are now handled by minority-owned business enterprises. This contract will include all applicable wage requirements and will have a term of 1 year with 2 1-year options to renew. The cost is not expected to exceed $225,000 annually, and I'm happy to provide any other information that may be needed at this time.
Okay. Any questions or comments from the board?
Quick question, Madam Chair. Laura, does this, if we don't get any snow, do they get $225,000?
Great question. No, the actual payment will be based on however much work is required. In this past year, we spent a little over $100,000 over the past snow season, so our spend is typically lower than that budgeted amount.
I know these contracts are structured both ways. I didn't know which way this one was, so thank you.
Awesome. Any additional questions or comments? Okay, hearing and seeing none, motion is in order.
So moved. Seconded.
Roll call for a vote. Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye, motion passes. Item number 6, request authorization to execute and deliver a memorandum of agreement with the City of Boston, acting by and through its Department of Public Works, authorizing the use of and payment for fuel and services provided by the Fleet Maintenance Unit. Laura.
Thank you again, Madam Chair. As stated, I'm requesting your authorization to enter into a memorandum of agreement. The city's Department of Public Works operates a fleet maintenance unit, which provides fuel and services for city-owned vehicles. To achieve efficiency and decrease costs, the same unit provides services to all entities under the BPDA, including the EDIC, the BRA, which I'll speak to later today, and the Office of Workforce Development. Services include fuel, emergency breakdown response and towing, inspections, repairs, washing, and other maintenance and coordination. By keeping our relatively small fleet of vehicles in good repair, the BPDA is able to be present at our properties and programs all across the city. The term of the MOA is 1 year, and the terms have not changed compared to the prior year's successful agreement. Typically, the BPDA spends less than $50,000 per year on these services, but the city requires that all MOAs for all departments authorize up to $250,000 in case major repairs to engines or other equipment are needed. Thank you once again, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, any questions or comments from the board? Hearing and seeing none, a motion is in order.
So move.
Second it.
Roll call for a vote. Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Lansmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye, motion passes. Okay, item number 7. Request authorization to enter into a one-year contract with CDW LLC for Adobe software licenses in an amount not to exceed $88,527.84. Mike.
Mike, you're muted.
Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Thank you, tech guy, right? Awkward. The only thing I'd like to add is that this is a 1-year renewal of our existing licenses. Happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Okay, any questions or comments from the board? Hearing and seeing none, a motion is in order.
So move.
Second it.
Roll call for a vote. Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Lansmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye, motion passes. Item number 8, request authorization to enter into a contract with Slalom LLC for advisory services on a Salesforce platform in an amount not to exceed $82,559.44. Michael.
Great, thank you, Madam Chair. So this statement of work defines a project where Slalom will deliver advisory services to the BPDA to validate the agency's existing requirements, planning, and high-level conceptual design in regards to the future state of both the agency's Article 80 developer portal and the project tracking in Salesforce. At present, the BPDA utilizes a custom web application to collect the data from developers. The goal of this discovery and assessment is to analyze the current state of the existing business processes and to look for opportunities to boost efficiency and effectiveness by introducing new features, new functionality within the Salesforce platform. Beyond the BPDA project managers, this engagement will involve discovery sessions with other stakeholders, including the other various BPDA departments, developers, and city departments. At the end of this discovery, the BPDA will be presented with a roadmap for the future state vision of how we as an agency will manage Article 80 projects. The better we manage this information, the easier it will be to share it with other stakeholders, most importantly, the residents of Boston. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, any questions or comments?
One question, Madam Chair. Mike, being a Salesforce user for over a dozen years, how many seats do you have?
We are currently working on, I think, about 40 licenses for internal, but we've been getting our licenses through the city of Boston, through SHARE, to get community licenses, hundreds of community licenses that we'll use for the developers to be able to use the community license in Salesforce.
It's a monster. It's worth it once it's up and running, but very good. Thank you.
No, you're very welcome.
Yeah, I just echo that it does take some time. I'm glad you guys are getting assistance to help design it. But once it is, it'll be very fruitful. I'm super excited about this investment. So, all right, if there are no other questions or comments, roll call or a motion is in order. That's what's
So moved.
Second it.
roll call for a vote. Mr. Monahan,
Aye.
Dr. Lansmark,
Aye.
Mr. Miller,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right, item number 9, request authorization to enter into a contract with Kurtwang as the vendor or related entity to provide services to improve the Office of Financial Empowerment virtual orientation and digital access services to better serve its clients in an amount not to exceed $75,000, supported by the American Rescue Plan funds. Constance.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. I came before you in April to request to issue an RFP for a digital literacy consultant to help the OFE better recruit and serve residents remotely. We have gone through that process, identified as strong vendor Kurtwang, and now seek authority to enter into a contract for $75,000 using, as the chair mentioned, ARPA funding. Thank you. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments from the board? Hearing and seeing none, a motion is in order.
So moved.
Seconded.
Roll call for a vote. Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
The chair votes aye, motion passes. Thank you, Constance.
Thank you.
Right, item number 10, request authorization to enter into a license agreement with Fairmont Innovation Lab, doing business as Art Morpheus Incorporated, for use of their property located at 572 Columbia Road in Dorchester for a youth green jobs program. Davo.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board, and Director Jameson. How's everybody doing? I'm Dave Jefferson. I'm the Executive Director of PowerCore Boston. PowerCore Boston is a 6-month green workforce development training program for 18 to 30-year-old Bostonians. Hold on. Start your video. Yes, I would like to start my video. Thank you. I wasn't in control of that, sorry. So PowerCore Boston is a 6-month green workforce development training program for 18 to 30-year-old Boston residents. And the idea is to train and then get them employed in the green industry. This program will help to address some of the mayor's climate change goals that are outlined in the Green New Deal. So before you today is a memorandum seeking the board's authorization for PowerCore Boston to enter into a license agreement with the Fairmont Innovation Lab for the use of their property at 572 Columbia Road in Dorchester. This program was recently launched and we were in dire need of a program space in which to conduct our programming and training. So previous to selecting the Fairmont Innovation Lab, we did an extensive search through the city, which included looking at Dry Dock, the China Trade Center down in Chinatown, several BCYF sites, the municipal building in Hyde Park, the Mayor's Art Center in Hyde Park, and we eventually landed on the Fairmont Innovation Lab and decided that we would go with this spot because it suited our programmatic needs in terms of seating for all of our personnel, desk space, et cetera. And it also had the space that we needed to conduct the programming that we're doing. So we were able to come to an agreement on terms that would allow us to hold the space for 6 months and have the option to renew in 6 months if we weren't able to find a more permanent space within that time. The funding for this program has come from American Rescue Plan dollars in the form of $2,750,000. We were also able to get $250,000 out of the city's operating budget. This money has already been allocated to BPDA for the PowerCore Boston program. We were also approved by the City Council recently for additional funding. So our ask today to the board is that we be allowed to go into a licensing agreement with the Fairmont Innovation Lab for 6 months with the option to renew in 6 months if we do not locate a more permanent spot for us. The amount of money that we're looking to spend monthly on this is $5,550. And as mentioned, we were in dire need of a program space, and the timeline that we were under to launch this did fit our needs. And we're hoping that the board will see that and agree and have this approved. Thank you. Happy to answer any questions that you guys may have.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments from the board?
I know that this is a real estate lease proposal that's before us, so it's limited to that. But I wonder if this board can receive some periodic updates on the success of these programs in reaching out to and achieving a level of success in educating residents for these green jobs.
Absolutely, more than happy to share that information with you guys. We're coming up on our 90-day mark just next month in September. We'll graduate our first class mid-December, so happy to share any updates, kind of where we're at, positive outcomes, et cetera, with you guys.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Any additional questions or comments?
Yeah, I have one. Davo sounds like a great program. I'm just wondering, where do you see the jobs being created? Just an idea as to where that opportunity might be.
Great, so great question. So one of the things we're trying to help do is build out a pipeline of potential employers for a number of the city departments, in particular Parks Rec, that has a deficit in this space. Currently, there are less than 2,000 trees being planted annually. The mayor has ambitions to ramp that up to a significantly higher number, roughly 8,000 a year. And the current workforce is not equipped to do that. They don't have the bandwidth to do that. So there's many parks and rec projects that being pushed to the side because they don't have the bandwidth to address the work that needs to be done. So we've looked into a number of private tree companies that are also eagerly interested in us graduating our students so that they can become employees with their companies. They're struggling to fill some of their openings as well. So landscaping companies as well. So we're seeing a number of different entry points where we'll be able to plug our graduates in for employment opportunities. And from the research we're doing, the salaries connected to these opportunities are within that livable wage category.
Excellent, thank you.
Great. Additional questions or comments? Great program. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Motion is in order.
Moved.
Second it?
Roll call for a vote. Mr. Monahan.
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark.
Aye.
Mr. Miller.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Thank you, Devo. Item number 11, personnel. Michael.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board, Secretary and Director Jemison. We have a number of items for your consideration on the EDIC agenda. We have 8 appointments with details in the board memos. Tyrone Williams, Program Manager, Programs and Administration Manager in the Office of Workforce Development, effective August 15th, 2022. Tariq Ramsey, Crew Leader, Power Corp in the Office of Workforce Development, effective August 15th, 2022. Cassie Cavender, Human Resources Specialist in the Human Resources Department, effective August 22nd, 2022. Scott Greenhall, Project Assistant in the Development Review Department, effective August 22nd, 2022. Jessica Montrose, Grants and Budget Assistant in the Finance Department, effective August 29th, 2022. Ethan McIntosh, Research Assistant in the Research Department, effective August 29th, 2022. Talia Matarazzo, Assistant to the Chief of Planning in the Director's Office, effective September 6th, 2022. Delaney Almond, GIS Analyst in the MIS Department, effective September 6th, 2022. And we also have 10 employment service contractors with details that are listed in your board memos. There are 6 status changes with details also listed in the board memos. Jeffrey Thomas, Communications Specialist in the Communications Department, effective July 19th, 2022. Brittany Comack, Assistant Communications Director in the Communications Department, effective August 1st, 2022. Patricia Caperkey, Urban Designer 2 in the Planning Department, effective August 15th, 2022. Rebecca Hansen, Deputy Director, Real Estate Portfolio and Strategy and Disposition in the Real Estate Department, effective August 15th, 2022. Christopher Worrell, Community Engagement Manager in the DEI Department, effective August 15th, 2022. And Yoskari Gonzalez, Outreach Coordinator in the Office of Workforce Development, effective August 15th, 2022. There is 1 travel request with details listed in the board memos. And finally, we have 4 departures with details listed in the board memo. Brittany Thompson, Accountant 2 in the Finance Department. Stephen Costa, Senior Graphics Designer in the MIS Department. Rebecca Braun, Special Advisor in the Real Estate Department. And Shudang Sun, Senior Project Engineer in the Real Estate Department. And thank you very much.
Thank you. Do we have any questions or comments from the board? Hearing and seeing none, motion is in order.
So moved.
Second it?
Roll call for a vote. Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Mr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye, motion passes. Thank you. So that's the end of our EDIC agenda. I need a motion to adjourn this meeting.
I move that we adjourn the EDIC meeting.
Second it.
Roll call for a vote. Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Meeting adjourned. And we'll start the BPDA meeting. Thank you for joining the August Boston Redevelopment Authority Board meeting. At this time, the Boston Planning and Development Agency is continuing to host public meetings in a virtual setting for the health, safety, and accessibility of Boston residents. For more information and updates, visit bostonplans.org. The Open Public Meeting Law requires that I notify the public that this meeting is being recorded. Please be aware that an audio and visual recording of this meeting is being made and broadcast by Boston City TV, which is a part of the City of Boston Office of Cable Communications at Xfinity Channel 24, RCN Channel 13, and Verizon Fios Channel 962. It is also being live streamed at boston.gov/cable. So to begin this meeting, I'll take a roll call. Mr. Monahan?
Present.
Dr. Landsmark?
Present.
Mr. Miller?
Present.
And I, Priscilla Rojas, am present. Okay. Item, item number 1, request authorization for the approval of the minutes of the June 16th, is that right? 2022 and July 14th, 2022 meetings. Motion is on.
Second.
Roll call for a vote. Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye, motion passes. I believe we have a representative from Councilor Arroyo's office that would like to make a comment, so we can go ahead and take him out of order. Jordan, are you on the line or screen?
Yes, good evening, everyone. Nice to see you all. Thank you so much, Chair. Thank you, Board. I'm just here, my name is Jordan Frias. I'm Chief of Staff to Councilor Ricardo Arroyo. I just want to speak on behalf of the Councilor in support of item 13 for 104 Walter Street in Rosendale, that we support this. And I hope you can take that into consideration. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Jordan. Okay. Moving on to item number 2, request authorization to schedule a public hearing on September 15th, 2022 at 5:30 p.m. or at such a time and date deemed appropriate by the director to consider the proposed Fifth Amendment to Northeastern University 2013 through 2023 institutional master plan for the inclusion of the renovations of approximately 138,000 square feet of interior space and addition of approximately 2,500 square feet of new space to the Snell Library. A motion is in order.
This involves my employer, so I will recuse myself from voting in this matter.
Okay, thank you.
Motion approved.
Mr. Miller, you want to? Okay, thank you. Okay, roll call for a vote. Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye, motion passes. Item number 3, request authorization to schedule a public hearing on September 15th, 2022 at 5:40 p.m. or at such a time and date deemed appropriate by the director to consider the proposed Parcel X project located at 310 Northern Avenue in the South Boston waterfront as a development impact project. A motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call for a vote. Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Mr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye, motion passes. Item number 4, request authorization to schedule a public hearing on September 15th, 2022 at 5:50 p.m. or at such a date and time deemed appropriate by the director to consider the 125 Lincoln Street proposed project as a development impact project. A motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call for a vote. Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye, motion passes. Item number 5, request to schedule a public hearing on September 15th, 2022 at 6 p.m. or at such a time and date deemed appropriate by the director to consider the 24 Dry Dock Avenue within the Raymond L. Flynn Marine Park proposed project as a development impact project. A motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call for a vote. Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes. And item number 6, Board of Appeal. Brian or Jeffrey?
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's Jeff Hampton.
Yeah.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board, Director Jameson. 46 zoning petitions have been prepared by planning staff for transmittal to the Board of Appeal. This will cover 2 meetings in August and 1 meeting in September. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, any questions or comments from the board? Hearing and seeing none, a motion is in order.
So moved.
Seconded.
Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 7, request authorization to adopt the diversity, equity, and inclusion policy for Article 80. Michael.
Nope. Actually, it's Brian.
Okay. Brian.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Brian Glasscock, Deputy Director for Regulatory Planning and Zoning. Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board, Chief Jemison, Secretary Paulimas. I have the honor today of bringing forward a policy proposal for consideration, hopefully adoption by the BPDA board regarding diversity, equity, and inclusion in our private development. You heard earlier from Laura Melly about some of the great work that's happening using our agency-owned properties and purchasing power to help push forward these goals. This policy proposal would be collecting information about private development that we review on a regular basis. So I have the next slide, please. So this is just sort of the basic overview. We're doing this so we can understand how disparities in the real estate development market, construction, and so on, exist, and how this participation by minority and women business enterprises has been hopefully increasing over time. What we can do to help promote that and figure out what things are successful, where the thought leaders are, where people are being successful in this space. So we're going to be requesting that project proponents under Article 80, B, C, D, submit plans to us describing their efforts to include diversity, equity, and inclusion in their business practices and their corporate structure in these development projects that we review here every month. And we're planning to look at these results of these plans over the next few months and use that to develop a way to include this in the zoning code in a meaningful way. Can I have the next slide, please? Why now? I mean, I think that I think we all know the answer to that question. We need to have been doing this long ago, but we're working our way into this. We've been doing very well, as I mentioned, with our RFPs and our land disposition. The last 4 years, there's 18 RFPs and 11 development projects that went to diverse teams, and you just heard about a bunch more today. I think most importantly, this is a strong indication of the agency's goals, where our heart is at, where our head is at, in terms of addressing these disparities that have been in place for forever, and using the knowledge that other people have gained out there in the private sector development world, finding out who are the thought leaders on this, what are the best practices, and figuring out how to get those more widespread, and to shine a little bit of light on the subject. Next slide, please. How it works. I'm simply asking project proponents for Article 80, B, C, and D. That's a large project review, plan development areas, and institutional master plans. what are you doing in this space? What are you doing to promote minority and women business enterprises? And we're trying to do it in an open-ended way so that we get as much information as possible, allow that narrative to help us really understand all aspects of this issue. It's a non-evaluative process, and meaning that no one's getting judged on this. We're not scoring anybody. This is for us to understand how people in the private sector approach these issues and gather information and look for best practices. They'll be with this first filing, project notification form, we'd be looking for the statement. And I think as a practical matter, we may continue to ask for information all along, because these are issues that don't all happen right up front. As projects go further and further along through the process, actually getting construction, we may reach back and ask, how are you doing on this space? So it's an iterative process. Any projects that are filing after August 15th, 2022, we'll be asking them for a statement, their disclosure plan. So next slide, please. So here's sort of what's in it. We want to know about in the pre-development area, who are the people involved in bringing the project forward? Who are the design companies, the engineering companies, all those things that go into something before it ever really becomes real. And certainly in the construction phase, lots of opportunities there. You heard about some of them earlier in the EDIC section. And then finally, the ongoing operation, the tenants, the management, the contractor services, vending, all of that. We want to give people a chance to tell us their story. And we actually had, I'll take the next slide, please. But we had meetings with some of the stakeholders, and one of the things we heard that was sort of surprising was they were looking for a way of bringing this information forward, and including information about their corporate structure and how their corporate structure helps support DEI. So this is the information that would be included in the plans. The firms, outreach to suppliers, strategies, of course, to support capacity development, mentorship programs and things like that. And the strategy to support their workforce, more additional workforce training. As you heard, the green building trades, huge opportunity to bring people along. And what their prior experience has done. Next slide, please. So going forward, this is sort of the next steps. We begin immediately, if this policy is adopted, we begin immediately getting it out to the development teams, the frequent flyers and so on, and anyone letting us know that they have a project on the offing, because we'd be expecting, if they want to participate, like this is a request that we're making of them. If they want to participate, we'd love to see a first glance at that when they file their PNF, PDA, or IMPNF. We collect those best practices, begin to track those, figure out what's the state of the art, and then as we discover how these things actually work in the real world, begin to look at refinements to the disclosure policy, and then hopefully fairly near future be able to codify this in the zoning code as part of Article 80. I think next slide. So here's some things that, open-ended questions that we want to consider, not for answering today, but what are we going to learn? What are the motivating factors? How can we encourage participation? What role does the community play in this as advocates? These would be public documents available to anybody that wants to look at them. And there may be a very important and strong role for the community to play in that. We know that there are people out there that provide, that there are MBWEs that need a better connection to the development world, and this might be a way for them to find out more about projects that are happening. Next, I think the last slide. Just want to say, personally, I was lucky enough to be the person presenting this today, but Nupur Manani that worked on this tirelessly was away. She wasn't able to present, but this is a real team effort between a bunch of us here in the agency, and of course with Devin Quirk, Emily Brophy, Dana Whiteside, of course the leadership of Chief Jemison and Newport, who I mentioned. So I want to make clear there were a lot of chefs in this kitchen, and we came up, I think this is a pretty good work product at the end of the day. So that's it. If I have any questions, I'm glad to try and answer.
Thank you. Questions or comments from the board?
I have one comment. First of all, I want to thank all the staff and community people who've worked for quite a long time to bring this policy initiative to fruition. It's very important, and I think it's particularly important within a context where we're trying to both inspire and prepare young people within our region to go into these fields which have endemically been exclusive, to be perfectly honest. I've sat on this board for a number of years, and we rarely see professionals of color or women come before us as primary proponents. And I think that the work that is being started through this initiative is extremely important in creating incentives and role models for more diverse people to enter the fields. My key concern is that we are really going to have our work cut out for us, because most of the major firms that are doing development work in the greater Boston area at this point are at least national and often global in nature. And many of the construction firms, real estate firms, finance firms may have an office here and be situated here, but they're not always truly based here. And what I would not want to see several years from now is a set of responses to this policy where a number of people of color are brought in from elsewhere in the country or elsewhere in the world to try to fulfill the commitments that we expect these real estate professionals to make. I do know that when these kinds of requirements were put in place for construction firms a number of years ago, many of those firms checkerboarded people from one site to another. And one thing I would not want to see is that begin to happen with professionals, rather than being the kind of thing that inspires and enables young people in the greater Boston area to feel that this is a field that they might have a future in. So I think our work is cut out for us. We will take a look in these early stages at what works and what hasn't worked. And I would submit that our professional associations, our building associations, our universities, our technical schools, all have a role to play in providing the resources necessary to fulfill the kinds of diversity commitments that we would want to see this policy result in.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And we know that there's going to be a lot of early work that we need to do on this, sorting out and looking for those very kinds of problems and workarounds that you mentioned, the checkerboarding concept, and certainly be mindful of that. And I think one of the big advantages is the fact that we're daylighting this for the first time in a way that advocates and others can be looking at it as well. It's not just us, but it's the whole community of Boston. And I think Chief Jemison said earlier today, we want to make sure that the things that are happening here are raising everybody up, that they're true, meaningful opportunities for everybody in the city And I think this is a good start in that direction.
Okay. Yeah. Additional questions or comments from the board?
Madam Chair, Brian, you'd think that Ted and I talked earlier, we didn't. I had my question on, I understand the whole DEI piece. On the pre-development, and especially the suppliers, and if this is adopted, hopefully it can be amended, and people will look at residency piece. I don't see anything in here on residency. Construction, that's already etched in stone, but preference given to businesses that are resident businesses. They pay property taxes to the city of Boston, and they shouldn't be overlooked for a suburban business just for that reason. So I'd like to see that put in there. They pay commercial real estate to the city and a lot of it. So that's just my 2 cents.
I appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm not sure we can build that in legally, but I do believe that there are incentives that can be created so that we're drawing upon the expertise and knowledge and connections of locally based businesses to encourage them to hire and to develop staff who understand the region and who are committed to staying here for the long term.
Yeah, and I think there may be also an opportunity here, because this works both ways. The locally based vendors and subcontractors and others are going to have a chance to see, where the gaps are, where there are opportunities in these projects, well before they're too far down the road to be involved, and they can reach out to the developer and say, hey, I don't know why you're going, out of state for a particular type of equipment or supplies or materials or whatever. Here I am right here in Boston, let's talk. And I think that transparency piece of this is going to be really powerful down the road.
Okay, great. Thank you. And before we bring this to a vote, I just want to say that I'm so proud to be taking this vote and for all of the team that worked so hard to bring this here to us today. I've had the privilege, along with my fellow board members, to watch our progress on DEI in our tenures here, from each of us individually asking questions from our own point of view on the topic, watching our own equitable procurement plan come to life with Michelle and her team, and witnessing the success of the Massport model and the projects around Nubian Square, and where we've seen how this can work. So they always say, you measure what you care about, and this really does show how much we care as an agency, as a city, as individuals, and that we are being intentional about this, and look forward to seeing the information that we collect through this initiative. So thank you. And with that, I believe a motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call for a vote. Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Lansmar?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you all very, very much.
All right, item number 8. Request authorization to enter into a license agreement with Carmimadibara, sorry if I got that wrong, McMillan, for the installation, display, and removal of the Unsung Heroes fence panel art exhibit located at 626 Warren Street in Roxbury. Lauren.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Now and There, a nonprofit organization focused on activating public spaces, has recommended artwork titled Unsung Heroes, Miss Mary Mac's Journey to the Freedom House by Carmima Deborah McMillan for an installation along the fence of BPDA property located at 626 Warren Street in the Washington Park, Grove Hall neighborhood area of Roxbury through the winter of 2023. The artist's goal for this public project is to recognize the potential voices of young Black women and women of color. As part of her process, Mima interviewed students of Boston's Freedom House and asked, "Who is your unsung hero in the community?" The resulting image celebrates the past and current leadership of the Freedom House, who continue the mission of their founders, Muriel and Otto Snowden. Former Freedom House CEO Katrina Shaw and current CEO Charmaine Arthur have provided a stable community resource, transforming the economic and cultural fabric of Boston's high-needs communities through education. They're credited for developing and executing a strategy to address the crucial need for career readiness, mental wellness services, and youth employment opportunities. The project was approved by the Boston Arts Commission at the August 22 meeting, which was actually last night. The license term will commence on September 1st, 2022, with installation expected to be completed by September 30th. The installation will remain in place until December 1st, 2023, at which time they will be removed by the artist. Due to the charitable and community service nature of the uses, no fee is proposed. Ms. McMillan shall be responsible for the insurance, installation, maintenance, and removal of the exhibit. Thank you for your attention. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments from the board? Hearing and seeing none, a motion is in order.
So moved.
Second it?
Roll call for a vote. Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Mr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 9, request authorization to enter into a temporary license agreement with the Massachusetts Bay Transportation Authority for use of a portion of parcel 0902704030 located on Columbus Avenue to perform construction at Ruggles Station at the station's Columbus Avenue Extension entrance as part of the Ruggles Station Improvement Project. Dennis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The subject property consists of approximately 3,813 square feet on Columbus Avenue in the immediate vicinity of Northeastern University and the entrance to the MBTA's Ruggles stop on the Orange Line. It's part of a larger 50,000 square foot parcel owned by the BPDA that has been part of a planning study with BPDA Northeastern and the MBTA. The planning concept will require a PIC action, Public Improvement Commission action, and will also involve highway easement as well as improved bicycle paths and an improved entrance to Ruggles T-stop. In July 2020, BPA board authorized the director to petition the Public Improvement Commission to transfer specific parcels towards this important public improvement. Although significant progress has been made in the larger planning context, it is not quite ready yet to bring to the BPA board or to the Public Improvement Commission. As I said, although significant improvement progress has been made, and presentation to those boards is forthcoming as soon as possible. In the meantime, the MBTA has secured its financing and wishes to start construction on the Ruggles Street improvements. The immediate work will include the relocation of flagpoles, the removal and replacement of safety bollards, and the removal and replacement of stairways for better access to the train station. We're requesting permission today to enter into a license with the MBTA for the use of the subject 3,813 square feet of land to allow the MBTA to commence these needed improvements. The proposed license term will be the earlier of the public improvement and BPA action that I just referenced, or September 30th of 2024. Due to the collaborative work between the agencies toward this shared public good, no fee is proposed. Thank you.
Okay, any questions or comments from the board?
This is not a Northeastern University project, and indeed I'm hearing some of these details for the first time, but I do feel compelled to ask, given that we will get a briefing on this at a future date as the project moves forward. Given that this project is going to have a significant impact, I suspect, on the Nubian Square area, the university, and the businesses on the Columbus Avenue side of this station, is there a plan that we are a part of that will ensure community input into the changes that are being made in order to enhance access to this very important public transit resource?
The short answer to that, Dr. Newsback, is yes. Although I'm not intimately involved in the planning process. As you know, I'm not a planner. I'm more of the real estate transaction in my role here. But I'm certain that the planning colleagues in the planning department will be happy to give you education.
Well, I would just ask that at some point down the line, we see that kind of plan, and frankly, I think many of us would be more interested in seeing actual engagement beyond a plan in and of itself. This is a very heavily used station, and there are economic development and other impacts that this work is likely to have. So I want the public agencies to be aware that levels of public engagement need to be a part of this process.
Thank you. I'm certain that my colleagues in the planning department, as well as the other agencies, feel the same. I'm certain you'll be pleased with the update.
Thank you.
Any additional questions or comments? Hearing and seeing the motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call for a vote. Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. Item number 10, request authorization to execute and deliver a memorandum of agreement with the City of Boston, acting by and through its Department of Public Works, authorizing the use of and payment for fuel services provided by the Fleet Maintenance Unit. Laura.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I've returned before you today to request authorization of this MOA with the City of Boston's Department of Public Works for fleet maintenance. The details are identical to those I presented during the EDIC meeting earlier today. I'm happy to reiterate any of that information or answer any additional questions you may have at this time.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments from the board? Hearing and seeing none, a motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call for a vote. Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Thank you, Laura. Item number 11, request to enter into a memorandum of agreement with the City of Boston Mayor's Office of Arts and Culture to facilitate the transfer of mitigation funds for arts and culture efforts associated with the Government Center Garage project and Hub on Causeway project. We have Michael and Clara.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board, Secretary Paul Hamus, Director Jameson, Michael Christopher, Director of Development Review. The matter before you is a modified item from last month's board. The focus of this specific agenda item is related to the BPDA entering into an MOA with the Mayor's Office of Arts and Culture relative to two specific development projects, mitigation funds within the Government Center area. I want to commend the BPDA and the City of Boston staff for their tireless efforts in order to bring this in front of you. This is a result of a highly transparent, collaborative Article 80 process for the Government Center Garage and the Hub on Causeway projects between residents, City of Boston agencies, and the proponents that resulted in a significant amount of mitigation funds going into public realm and public art. Leading up to this appearing in front of you, the BPDA spent the last 8 months meeting with city and state agencies, as well as local elected officials, to iron out the details of the direction of these mitigation funds that will have an immediate impact on the surrounding area. I'm now going to turn it over to my colleague Ty Lam, who will provide background on the mitigation funds. He will then turn it over to the City of Boston's Chief of Arts and Culture, who will go into further detail on how these specific funds and how who will go into great detail how these specific funds and how they will be used to enhance the Government Center neighborhood from a public art perspective. Thank you. Ty?
Thank you, Michael. Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the board, Secretary Paul Hamus, and Director Jameson. Ty Lim, BPDA Senior Development Finance Manager. As Michael has mentioned in the intro, the staff is requesting an authorization to enter into an MOA with the City of Boston Mayor's Office of Arts and Culture to facilitate the transfer of mitigation funds associated with Government Center Garage and Hub on Causeway projects for public arts and culture efforts approved by the BPDA. If I may, I would like to reiterate that this request is different from the one from the previous board relating to just these two projects. Just to give you a brief background, in December of 2015, the BPDA and the developer of the Hub-on Causeway project entered into a cooperation agreement relating to the contribution of $6,004,118 to be utilized for significant public realm improvements as deemed appropriate and necessary by the BPDA. Also, in May of 2017, the BPDA and the developer of Government Center Garage project entered into a cooperation agreement relating to the contribution of $6,087,589 to be utilized also for the significant public realm improvements. Of the combined escrow fund, which is just shy of $12.1 million, $4,601,589 is allocated to Mayor's Office of Arts and Culture for its work on public arts and culture efforts. The detailed uses of the funds are $2 million from Hub-on Causeway and $601,589 from Government Center Garage project is allocated for high-quality public art and placemaking, which may include various forms of art, including but not limited to sculpture, mural, creative lighting, and more. In addition, $2 million from Government Center Garage is allocated for seed fund for City Hall Plaza program. At this time, I would like to introduce and turn it over to City of Boston Chief of Arts and Culture, Cara Elliott Ortega, who will provide you with further details of the city's efforts on relating to the public arts, placemaking, City Hall Plaza programming, and more. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And hello, members of the board. Cara Elliott Ortega, Chief of Arts and Culture. And I'm going to give a quick overview of our office and the use of these funds. If we go to the next slide. So just in case you're not familiar with us, this is a quick snapshot of our operations. We've been in office for 7 years, and this year we'll be close to a $4 million operating budget and a $15 million capital budget. We're also growing to 20 full-time staff this year, which includes building out our cultural planning team. Next slide. And this is our bread and butter, knowing and supporting the cultural scene of creative businesses, nonprofits, artists and creative workers, as well as supporting a variety of place-based programs, activations, and public art. Next slide. So the funding that we're talking about today from these two projects will support that place-based work, public artworks, placemaking or placekeeping, and the activation of City Hall Plaza, all of which are contributions to our public realm. So funds will augment some existing programs and seed new ones specifically focused on this downtown public realm area, creating jobs for local cultural workers and artists while providing beautification and activation opportunities. Next slide. I'm just going to touch briefly on each of these areas. So we procure public art through two main programs, the Transformative Public Art Program, which supports murals, installations, immersive experiences, and other short-term creative interventions. And then we also have our long-term public art program where the city is really in the driver's seat, managing and contracting artists for site-specific works that are really meant to last. There are a lot of opportunities for artworks in both of these categories that we're really excited to explore with this funding, particularly as a part of the mayor's focus on animating downtown, vacant storefronts, public realm opportunities through collaborations with the Downtown BID, the Greenway, and various partners in Chinatown. Next slide. When it comes to placemaking and placekeeping, our main funding vehicle is the Opportunity Fund Grant Program, which offers grants to individual artists who want to bring free arts experiences to the public. It would be great to be able to offer specific funding for downtown-related activations, increase the grant and contract amounts for higher impact or multi-site experiences and events. And this is a big part of what actually will bring people back to some of these spaces, maybe help bring workers back to in-person office. And if people can remember a few years ago, events like Illuminous, things that really help us think about how we're experiencing public space differently and really engage us. That's the kind of scale that we would love to be able to support. Next slide. Lastly, City Hall Plaza programming is a new area of work for us. We will have a new staff role in the office this year, the City Hall Plaza Engagement Manager, who will be responsible for contracting for a variety of programming that makes the most of the plaza renovation and make sure is going to be responsible for making sure that we see activities
activities on the plaza and programming on the plaza that are really reflective of the full diversity of the city. So here you can see the mission of the plaza as well as some of the organizational structure in City Hall. And this is really a collaboration across a variety of city departments. So we're really excited about the ability to bring things to scale as well on City Hall Plaza with an improved infrastructure that we didn't have before. Next slide. And plaza programming is also more than just kind of concerts or big events. There's also the opportunity to bring a variety of kinds of experiences, media, and installations, including rotating artwork. So this is actually one of our first plaza commissions that was just approved yesterday or 2 days ago by the Boston Art Commission. This is by artist Yuki Lee, whose graphic design work will be fabricated by the city onto these panels that we can actually replace and refabricate. So the goal is to be able to continuously commission new programming and new artworks so that the plaza is always active and responsive to what's happening in the city of Boston, and also so that we continue creating those economic opportunities for local artists and entrepreneurs. And that is a very quick dash through those programs that this funding is going to go towards. Of course, happy to answer any questions, and also would really love to be able to come back as we scope really specific projects and start contracting some of these to report on how the funds are used. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Cara. Any questions or comments from the board? Super exciting. Thank you so much. It's been, again, it's so exciting to see how far the Office of Arts and Culture has come in such a short amount of time. So thank you and your team for all the work that you guys do. Okay, so I believe a motion is in order.
This is really great. So moved.
Second.
Okay, roll call for a vote. Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Awesome. Item number 12, request authorization to advertise and issue a request for proposals for a licensed engineering consultant for the waterfront infrastructure survey and assessment at BRA owned and EDIC owned properties. Laura.
Thank you once again. My final request before you today is to authorize this joint procurement of a waterfront infrastructure survey. The details are identical to the ones presented during the EDIC board meeting, but I'm happy to answer any other questions you may have.
Okay, any questions or comments from the board? All right, hearing and seeing none, motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call for a vote. Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Thank you, Laura. Okay. Item number 13, request authorization to extend the tentative designation status of Habitat for Humanity Greater Boston Incorporated as redeveloper of 104 Walter Street in Roslindale and to take all related actions. Ray.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Madam Secretary, Director Jemison, and members of the board. As you recall, in December 2020, the BPDA board approved the acquisition and disposition of 104 and 108 Walter Street in Roslindale to meet the community's goals of preserving open space and creating affordable housing in Roslindale. The BPDA then conveyed 108 Walter Street to the Boston Conservation Commission to permanently preserve the land as part of the Roslindale Urban Wild. After a community process in partnership with the Mayor's Office of Housing, then D&D, then known as D&D, and closely working with an independent working group composed of members of the Longfellow Area Neighborhood Association, the Roslindale Wetlands Task Force, and additional neighbors, the BPDA issued an RFP in April 2021 for 104 Walter. The purpose was to create 4 affordable homeownership units. Last August, the board, as you recall, tentatively designated Habitat for Humanity Greater Boston for the sale and redevelopment of 104 Walter Street. As previously presented to the board, Habitat's proposal exceeds the community's goals of affordable home ownership and climate resilience, and as such was overwhelmingly supported by the community. The 4 units will be affordable to households with incomes ranging from 50% to 80% of the area median income. The existing house will be preserved and fully renovated into 2 units, while the other 2 units will be built in a newly constructed duplex located at the rear of the property. Both duplex buildings are designed to be passive house certified and will be 100% electric and will both include rooftop solar panels. Habitat for Humanity Greater Boston will acquire the property from the BPDA for $200,000. Per the terms of BPDA's Memorandum of Agreement with Mayor's Office of Housing, any funds received from the sale of the property will go to the City of Boston. To reiterate, Habitat's business model is to conduct their own design and construction work, relying heavily on volunteer labor. Habitat's diversity and inclusion strategy focuses on partnerships with local businesses, vocational schools, and colleges for cooperative educational work opportunities on its construction sites, thereby providing training for underrepresented groups in the construction field. Since receiving tentative designation, Habitat has been meeting with a working group on a monthly basis, and this working group includes the BPDA, MOH, the Parks Department, and a representative from the community for the purpose of refining its design. Design review with BPDA and MOH Urban Design is just about complete, and Habitat will be submitting schematic designs to the Inspectional Services Department shortly. This tentative designation extension will allow Habitat to obtain approval from the Zoning Board of Appeals and to finalize their financing. Thank you, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Ray. Any questions or comments from the board? Right, hearing and seeing none, a motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call for a vote. Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 14. Request authorization to approve Madison Trinity 2085 Development LLC as the new redeveloper of a portion of parcel 10 of the Southwest Corridor Development Plan, known as parcel B, to extend the tentative designation status of Madison Trinity 2085 Development LLC of a portion of parcel 10 in Roxbury, to extend the license agreement with Tropical Foods International, Inc. For the continued use of parcel 10B and to take all related actions. Dana.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board, Secretary Polhemus, and Director Jemison. I'm Dana Whiteside, Deputy Chief of Staff and Senior Development Advisor. We're pleased to share with you this request for consideration of the tentative designation for Madison CDC and Trinity Financial combined as the developer of 2085 Washington project, as mentioned by the chair in Roxbury. Particular focus for today's action is the clarification of the development entity, which will advance the third and final phase of the overall parcel 10 development. Madison Development Corporation has engaged Trinity Financial to create the new proposed program, which consists approximately of 96 residential units, approximately 115 parking spaces, enhanced enlarged public realm and amenity spaces at street level. This project was approved by this body in the spring of this year. This designation of Madison Trinity, the entity itself combined, will further reflect the codification of the agreement between those two entities to be 50-50 partners for the creation and management of this overall project. And the vote taken today ensures that all the related agreements and contracts that will be entered into reflect the formation of this partnership between Madison and Trinity. I'll mention by way of reminder that the considerations and activities that this group will undertake as part of the designation will be completion of the MIPA review, completion of the application and review by the Department of Housing and Community Development, the state, for funding resources that are being sought to support this predominantly income-restricted residential project, completion by the project team of its ZBA review, as well as completion of geotechnical and environmental site work by McPhail and Associates. This concludes my remarks, and I'm happy to take any questions you might have. I'll also acknowledge the presence of Intia Ambrogi Isaza, Director of Real Estate for Madison, as well as Benjamin Baldwin, who's a project manager as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dana. Do we have any questions or comments from the board? All right, hearing and seeing none, a motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call for a vote. Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Thank you, Dana.
Thank you very much.
Right. Item number 15. Request authorization to issue a certificate of completion for the commercial office and life science building located at 135 Morrissey Boulevard in Dorchester. Certificate of completion, so a motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call for a vote. Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Item number 16. Request authorization to issue a partial certificate of completion for phase 1 of the renovation of Lenox Apartments located at 601 Shawmut Avenue in Roxbury. It's a partial certificate of completion, so motion is in order.
So move.
Second.
Roll call for a vote. Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Lance Mark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye, motion passes. Item number 17, request authorization to consent to transfer of, request authorization to consent to the transfer of the project from Bricklayers Building 104 LLC to TCB Building 104 LLC, and to consent to the assignment and assumption of the BRA notes from Bricklayers Building 104 LLC to TCB Building 104 LLC, and to take all related actions. Statement.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board, Secretary Polhemus, and Director Jemison. Again, Dana Whiteside, Deputy Chief of Staff. Very pleased to share with you this request in consideration of the Building 104 development in Charlestown. By way of brief background, Building 104 has been owned by the Bricklayers Nonprofit Housing Corporation since the property's conversion in 1993 from a ship fitter's shop into a 46 one-bedroom apartment building for seniors. The units associated with this project are all income restricted. The project is governed by a land disposition agreement, or LDA, which is generated by the then BRA, now BPDA, to the Bricklayers and Carpenters Charlestown Nonprofit Development Corporation. The current project structure requires that 100% of the units at the property be leased and affordable to individuals or families whose income is 60% or less of the area median income. The financing of the project is supported by a number of public sources, including vehicles or tools such as low-income housing tax credits, linkage funds, and housing creation funds and or loans. I would note that the Community Builders, who is the proposed new owner of the project, is a nonprofit affordable housing developer and property manager with extensive experience in Boston and throughout the country. By way of background further, TCB, or the Community Builders, has been the property manager and is now moving to be the owner of the project. TCB will maintain the existing affordability restrictions, and as part of the Department of Housing and Community Development's 40T asset transfer approval process, is committed to extending the restriction accordingly. As part of its efforts, TCB also intends to refinance the property in 2023 using low-income housing tax credits, and this refinancing effort will also enable TCB to undertake what I'll call capital improvements or building refurbishment for the project, which will be of great benefit to the residents. With your vote today, we will enable TCB and its partners for the project to meet the consent and authorization requirements by HUD and to proceed with the associated closings for the upcoming transaction. That concludes my remarks, and I'm happy to take any questions, but also to acknowledge the presence of Leah Whiteside, who is Senior Project Director with Community Builders, and Tom McIntyre of the Bricklayers Nonprofit Housing Corporation, who are also on hand if you have questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions or comments from the board? Hearing and seeing none, a motion is in order.
So moved.
Second, and I'll use this as my comment. It should be noted that Bricklayers, going back to, I want to say 40 years now, 83, they were talking about affordable housing long before a lot of people have. And they probably did 5 or 6 projects in the city of Boston in the 80s. Tom McIntyre was president. Dana's father, Tom, was running the Bricklayers Union back then. And they were just way ahead of it with everybody else. And when you didn't need as much affordable housing, they were talking about it. From Andrew Square, I know that was one project, and Mayor Flynn was a big help. But this ends their, I guess, their affordable housing days. But they accomplished a lot and led a lot of people in this world. So they should be commended.
Thank you. All right, roll call for a vote. Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Lance Mark?
With enthusiasm, aye.
All right, Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye, motion passes, and thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Item number 18, request authorization to issue a certification of approval in accordance with Article 80E Small Project Review of the Zoning Code for the construction of 29 home ownership units, including 5 IDP units, 29 surface parking spaces, and 29 bicycle storage spaces located at 1169 through 1171 Adams Street, and to take all related actions. we have Quinn and Kathleen.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board, Secretary Polimus, and Director Jemison. The proposal before you is for an Article 80 small project located at 1169 to 1171 Adams Street in Dorchester. The proposed project consists of the construction of a 5-story, 40,010 square foot residential building containing 29 homeownership units, along with 29 vehicle parking spaces and 29 interior bike parking spaces. The project is contributing 5 units, or 17% of their total units, to the IDP program, including 2 two-bedroom units. In response to community concerns around the impacts of additional residents and vehicles on traffic in the area, the proponents will be providing new residents with free MBTA passes and access to discounted Blue Bike memberships. The proponent will also be contributing $29,000 to the Boston Parks Department to support nearby Dorchester Park, and $21,000 to support the nearby Eileen's House treatment facility for women recovering from substance use disorder. The BPDA held a public meeting for this project virtually on July 12, 2022. The meeting was well attended and advertised in the local newspaper and online. Following the public meeting, we received a letter of support from District City Councilor Frank Baker for this project. Now I'll turn it over to my colleague Kathleen Onifer from the BPDA Planning Division to discuss the planning context that was considered in the review of this project before Cheryl Tagayas from the project team begins their presentation. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair Rojas, Secretary Polhemus, and members of the board. My name is Kathleen Onifer, and I'm the Assistant Deputy Director of Downtown and Neighborhood Planning. Planning staff review of this project was informed, like the project we considered last week nearby, by the currently underway Plan Mattapan process. This plan includes significant study of the Morton and River Street corridors just outside the project site, and recommends that these corridors be a location for mixed-use and mid-rise development near transit and other amenities, and include open space and streetscape improvements to create a more comfortable walking environment along the corridor. This site is near many significant amenities, including bus and trolley transit service, a nearby grocery store, and other existing and recently approved multifamily buildings of a similar scale. During review of this project, planning staff focused on improving the safety of vehicle access to the site, securing multimodal improvements like you've heard Quinn go over, including bicycle parking and streetscape improvements, securing an increased number of inclusionary development units that reflected affirmatively furthering fair housing priorities for the site, including larger units with more bedrooms to serve families, even though as a small project this was voluntary, and design review to provide design features that create usable open space and character befitting a multifamily residential building. I'll now hand it over to the project team.
Thank you. My name is Cheryl Tagayas. I'm a principal with Spalding Tagayas Architects in Boston. The project site can be seen in the white dashed square that's just right of center. And some of the surrounding context, street names, and projects can be seen. This is just outside of the Lower Mills Baker Chocolate Historic District, and it is in the context of a transition zone between that context and a more single, 2, and 3 family context to the south and to the east. As has been said, this is a 29-unit development. That consists of 17 one-bedroom units and 12 two-bedroom units. The size of the building is approximately 40,000 square feet, excluding the parking garage, which is below grade, on a parcel that's just over 17,000 square feet for an FAR of 2.3. The building is primarily 4 stories. However, there is a partial 5th story for a total height of 53 feet. Next slide, please. These are photographs of some of the adjacent properties. So the site would be, if you look at the top 2 photographs, the site would be in between those 2 buildings, a condominium, residential condominium building on the left and the sheet metal workers local 17 on the right. The photographs below those show this, the photograph on the left would show the site just to the right where the blue car is parked. And then across Adams Street, you can see the residential context that I described. The photograph in the middle is the rear property line, the property line with the sheet metal workers property. And the current building, the existing building, which is a rental facility building, is a 1-story block building that is built to the property line. And you can see that rear of that site on the photograph of the right. It's fully paved and occupied with 2 buildings. Next, please. The floor plan at the top is also combined as a site plan. The vehicle access is to the left side, which leads down to the below-grade parking. The building faces and has a primary entrance on Adams Street, where amenity spaces face the street, and then 4 residential units to the rear. You can see the parking basement plan in the middle, and then an enlarged bicycle room plan on the right. That bicycle room is located on the 1st floor, just behind the amenity space, with direct access to the sidewalk on Adams Street. Next, please. The building elevation at Adams Street view at the top. We are using and proposing materials that combine the context of the red brick masonry of the Baker Chocolate vocabulary with the metal of the sheet metal union building, and in several different colors with large windows and proportion similar to those in the neighborhood. And then you can see 2 other elevations, both the rear and the south on the bottom. Next, please. This gives you a 3-dimensional view of how this building fits into its context, with the Standish Village on the left, a BHA building to the top, and the Baker Chocolate beginning on the upper left, and then the sheet metal buildings to the right. So the building is modulated to reflect the kind of modulation that is found in these buildings, both horizontally and vertically. And then color choices are made to accentuate that volumetric manipulation. Next, I think that may be, yes. So this is a view, existing condition view, the red box showing the existing site, and then the proposed building on the lower right. Next, please. This is gives you a better idea of the 2 existing buildings that are on the property, the Rental of Boston, the 1-story building, and then the simple gable building to the left of it. These would be raised in order to make room for this development. And then a similar view would be found on the lower right of the proposed project. We are able to introduce trees that should provide some shading onto the sidewalk on Adams Street. This portion of Adams Street is pretty void of street trees, so this should be a bit welcome to the neighborhood. Next, please. And then in conclusion, this is a summary of the number of units, the number of jobs, and the connectivity. And we're happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Great, thanks so much. Do we have any questions or comments from the board? Okay, hearing and seeing none, motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call for a vote. Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye, motion passes. Thank you and good luck.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, item number 19. Request authorization to issue a scoping determination waiving further review pursuant to Article 80 Large Project Review of the Zoning Code for the construction of a mixed-use project consisting of 23 home ownership units, including 4 IDP units, 58,373 square feet of office, laboratory, research and development space, 4,746 square feet of ground floor retail uses, and 52 below-grade parking spaces located at 804 through 812 Huntington Avenue. To recommend approval to the Board of Appeal for the necessary zoning relief and to take all related actions. Quinn and Karen.
Thank you again, Madam Chair, members of the board, Secretary Paulimas, and Director Jemison. The proposal before you is for an Article 80 large project located at 804 to 812 Huntington Avenue in Mission Hill. The proposed project consists of the construction of a 3-story, 58,000 square foot laboratory, office, and research building with a retail component, and a 3-story, 25,029 square foot residential building with 29 home ownership units. Combined, there will be 52 parking spaces, and the building is located a few hundred feet from the Mission Park MBTA Green Line station. The project includes 4 IDP units and will help to meet the homeownership goals of the Mission Hill neighborhood while activating a key site in the area. The entire project will meet LEED Gold standards and include rooftop solar installations, and the residential component will be all electric and passive house certified. The BPDA held a virtual public meeting and virtual IAG meeting via Zoom for the proposed project. The public meeting was on May 17th, 2022, and the IAG meeting was on May 16th, 2022. Both of these meetings were well attended and advertised in the local newspaper and online. I do want to acknowledge that this project underwent a change in BPDA project managers during the review process, as the original project manager is now on maternity leave. We have encouraged the project team to continue to work with the community as this project evolves. We've received a conditional letter of support from District City Councilor Kenzie Bach for this project. The councilor offered her support for this project at this time while citing the need for continued conversations with community organizations and abutters around homeownership restrictions and building setbacks before the project reaches the Zoning Board of Appeal. I'll now turn it over to my colleague Karen Chavez from the BPDA Planning Division to discuss the planning context that was considered in the review of this project before Robert Schlager and Ben Stracco from the development team begin their presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Quinn. Good evening, Chair Rojas, Secretary Polimas, and members of the board. My name is Karen Chavez, and I'm the neighborhood planner for Mission Hill. The proposed project is not located within the boundaries of a recent planning initiative. Instead, Planning Division staff is considering the neighborhood context, adopted citywide plans, including Imagine Boston 2030 and Go Boston 2030, Article 59 of the Zoning Code, and public feedback to review the project. The key considerations of the BPDA staff during the review of the project were compatibility in size and scale, especially along the residential block of Hillside Street, streetscape improvements and activation along Huntington Avenue, which will create an enhanced pedestrian experience, and mix of uses consisting of residential, retail, and office, lab, and research with proximity to public transit. I will now turn the presentation over to the proponent team to present the project in more detail. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen, members of the board. My name is Robert Schlager. I'm a principal with Bullfinch Companies. It's our pleasure to present to you the redevelopment of 804 to 812 Huntington Avenue. Beginning the presentation will be Ben Stracco, the architect for the project from Stantec. Ben?
Thank you, Robert. Madam Chair, members of the board. My name is Ben Stracco, as Robert said. I'm the project architect for 804, 812 Huntington. Next slide, please. The site is located at an intersection of Huntington Ave and Frawley in Boston. The site extends up about 50 feet in elevation to Hillside Street. The site is located adjacent from the Mass Ioneer building and across the street from the RTH apartments, which is a combination of low, medium, and high-rise buildings. The total site area is 63,119 square feet. Zoning boundaries actually split the site into residential along Hillside and commercial use along Huntington Ave. Next slide, please. This is a bird's eye view of the site. Starting on the left, on Hillside, we have designed a 23 for-sale unit residential building, 17% of which will be IDP. That's 4 out of the 23 units. We have an FAR of 1 with 3 stories and a total height of 35 feet. Included in the residential building are 14 vehicular parking spaces and 28 bike spaces, internal bike spaces. Between the buildings is an internal courtyard, split use between commercial and residential buildings. Moving down to the L-shaped 63,000 square foot commercial building, we have an FAR of 2 with 3 stories and a total height of 45 feet. Included in this office lab research and development building is 38 vehicular parking spaces and 36 internal bike spaces. After meetings and discussions with the community and the BPDA, we made both buildings dimensionally as of right, expanded the width of the sidewalk along Huntington Ave, calibrated the facades with adjacent context, improved open space between the buildings, and reduce the number of parking spaces to align with BPD's requirements. Next slide, please. Sustainability has played a major role in the design as well. For the residential building, the building will be 100% electric, and we are taking advantage of our southern exposure and integrating rooftop solar PV panels. Additionally, the building will be Passive House, LEED Gold, WELL Building, and Fitwell certified, along with being Energy Star rated. The commercial building will have a 77% fossil fuel reduction, along with rooftop solar PV panels as well. Additionally, it will be LEED Gold, WELL, and Fitwell certified. Next slide, please. This is a site plan of the project showing some of the landscape design, open spaces, and entryways. The main entry to the residential building is located off Hillside Street, along with the garage, vehicular access, and bike room access. You can start to see the open spaces being defined in this plan. There is an amenity terrace, a raised amenity terrace, and lawn for the residents, and a courtyard patio space for the commercial building. The main entry to the commercial building is off Huntington Ave, with bike, garage, and loading access off on Frawley Street, which is adjacent from the Mass Ioneer garage entry. We have eliminated an existing curb cut along Huntington Ave, making the sidewalk more pedestrian friendly. Next slide, please. This is a perspective looking at the commercial building from Huntington Ave. Some of the things to note are deeper sidewalks along Huntington Ave, allowing for active community retail, the addition of street trees, the relocated curb cut we just spoke about, and coordination with BPD for a blue bike dock. Next slide, please. This is an eye-level perspective looking at the commercial building facade from Huntington Ave. We were inspired by the leftover rock croppings seen throughout the Mission Hill area and integrated the quarried groove texture into our facade design and patterning. Next slide, please. For the residential building, we studied the context along Hillside and reinforced verticality and major and minor bay patterning. We also reinforced the patterning of the narrow repeating window fenestration seen on Hillside. Next slide, please. Lastly, this is a bird's eye view of the open space in the project. We continue to take advantage of the southern exposure with a raised amenity terrace for the residents, along with a backyard area with a nice lawn space below. Additionally, we captured the sun at the commercial building courtyard patio, seen in the lower left corner. Next slide, please. Thank you for everyone's time, and our team can answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any questions or comments from the board? Okay, hearing and seeing none, a motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call for a vote. Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Congratulations and thank you. It's a full building.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Good evening.
Okay, item number 20. Request authorization to issue scoping determination waiving further review pursuant to Article 80, Large Project Review of the Zoning Code for the construction of 65 income restricted residential units, 7,500 square feet of ground floor office program space for the ULEM, 24 garage parking spaces, and 68 bicycle spaces located at 84 Warren Street, aka 17 Warren Place project, to recommend approval to the Board of Appeal for the necessary zoning relief, subject to BPDA design review, and to take all related actions. We have Caitlin and Kathleen.
Good evening, Madam Chair, Director Jemison, Madam Secretary, members of the board. My name is Caitlin Coppinger, Senior Project Manager in Development Review. As mentioned, the item and project before you is the proposed 84 Warren Street project in Roxbury. The proposed project consists of the redevelopment of the existing Urban League of Eastern Massachusetts building and will be replaced with a 6-story mixed-use building containing approximately 65 income restricted residential units, in which 22 of those units will be home ownership and 43 will be rental. Home ownership units will be made available to those earning between 80 and 100% AMI, and the rental units will be made available to those earning between 30% and 80% AMI. Additionally, On the ground floor, there will be approximately 7,500 square feet of ground floor space dedicated to the Urban League of Eastern Massachusetts. This project will also include 65 bicycle parking spaces and 24 vehicular parking spaces. The PPDA held public and ING meetings on January 18th, January 5th, and March 23rd, 2022. We do want to acknowledge that there has been some community concerns, but we believe that this project embodies the spirit of the Roxbury Strategic Plan with the inclusion of both affordable rental and homeownership opportunities, and this project will allow the Urban League of Eastern Massachusetts to remain in their current location. I'll now turn it over to Kathleen Onifer to further explain the planning context for this project, and then to Joe Hanley and Tia Amborgi Asaza and Jonathan Garland from the development team.
Thanks, Caitlin. Good evening again, Chair Rojas, Secretary Polhemus, and members of the board. The project at 84 Warren is just outside of the area covered by our recent Plan New Bean Square process, but was part and covered by the Roxbury Strategic Master Plan, adopted in 2004. This plan set out a series of key goals to promote economic development and job opportunities, increase a diverse housing stock, improve safety for all modes of transportation, provide a public realm that reflects the Roxbury community, and lift up community engagement, community empowerment, and participation, including creation of the Roxbury Strategic Master Plan Oversight Committee, a community group that is still active to this day. For this project, staff review incorporated community concerns arising from the more recent Plan New Bean Square process, as well as discussion as part of this project itself. Plan New Bean Square, like the Roxbury Strategic Master Plan, also focused on the need for affordable housing, including affordable ownership opportunities. The review also included the input of other city departments, including standards and policies they have updated since the time of the Roxbury Strategic Master Plan, including the Mayor's Office of Housing and the Boston Transportation Department. The project provides needed affordable housing, including income-restricted homeownership and affordable rental housing, while retaining the Urban League of Eastern Massachusetts as a ground floor tenant in the development. The Urban League is an over 100-year-old organization with a focus on workforce and economic development. Both of these uses are aligned with the goals of the Roxbury Strategic Master Plan and of Plan New Bean Square. The project will undergo continued design review to address streetscape, bike and vehicular access, and parking layout through the public realm of the site moving forward. I'll now turn it over to the project team.
Hi, good evening. My name is Tia Amborgi Asaza. I'm the Director of Real Estate at Madison Park Development Corporation. And first of all, take the special opportunity as a Latina woman in mission-oriented real estate development to thank you for the DEI work you all have advanced here today. And I also thank you for the opportunity to present on the 84 Warren project. Madison Park Development Corporation has been pleased to work closely with the Urban League of Eastern Massachusetts in the redevelopment plans of their offices in New Bean Square. We have held or attended over 20 meetings with our neighbors, Roxbury community members at large, and elected officials. We've been appreciative of the open and passionate dialogue with community members around their concerns for this and other developments in New Bean Square. And out of that dialogue, we have the support of our direct abutters, the support of all participating impact advisory group members, and the support of Reclaim Roxbury. We've worked with our design team to incorporate changes in response to the community concerns and in conjunction with the BPDA planning staff. Two components that have remained critical to the vision of this project throughout were the new office and community space at the Urban League to continue their 100+ years of service to the community, and for the development of the accompanying underutilized lot that their office sits on today, into much needed affordable housing and homeownership opportunities. We're proud to present for your approval the development of 43 units of affordable rental, including a significant portion of deeply affordable 30% AMI and family-sized units. We are also committed to providing wealth building opportunities for the families of Roxbury with 22 homeownership condo units. And I will pass this along to Jonathan Garland to describe the design, and I'm happy to answer any questions the board may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Antia. Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the board, Director Jameson. What you see in front of you is the proposed square footage and program of the project, approximately 7,500 square feet of new state-of-the-art office space for the Urban League of Eastern Massachusetts, who currently resides at the corner of this site at Warren Street and Warren Place, approximately 43 residential rental apartments and 22 affordable homeownership condominium units, also with a total of 24 parking spaces. Next slide. As relates to the overall neighborhood and network, we wanted to start with a planning study just to show you a number of the different planning efforts that are happening in and around the site, a number of them being housing and a number of them being between planning stage and completed stage. Next slide. This is a series of existing conditions photographs. If you look at each image, you will see a black arrow that says site, and that's just orienting you exactly to where the site is. Currently, the Urban League occupies the site, as you can see on the upper right-hand image, a 1.5-story brick building that's been there. It's right next to the Gordon Conwell Theological Seminary, and it creates a great visible location right at the corner of Warren Street and Warren Place. Next slide. Looking at the architectural character, we did not want to introduce any sort of foreign materiality to the neighborhood, but we did want to be in context with what already exists. So the beautiful red brick that you can see on the Gordon Conwell building and the detailing that exists there, as well as the Lutheran Resurrection Church and the warm tone beiges and browns that are in that. And you'll see in our design visioning how we've worked to coordinate those materials and color palettes into our proposed building. Next slide. This is a ground floor showing in the pink color the 7,500 square feet for the Urban League. What's nice about this is it remains to be publicly visible, handicapped accessible, and right prominently situated at the corner of Warren Street and Warren Place. Moving to the right, where you see the red arrow, is the residential entrance lobby in the yellow color, which has bike storage as part of the lobby experience, as well as elevator access and stairwells leading you up and down through the residential part of the development, and then 24 at-grade surface parking spaces in the white with a new curb cut on Warren Place. Next slide. These are exterior elevations, which don't just show the building, but they show the building in scale and in context to the existing neighborhood. So the top elevation is Warren Street. You can see the Resurrection Church to the far right, the Gordon Conwell immediately abutting, and then other low-rise structures on the opposite side of Warren Street, Warren Place, excuse me. And then you can see the below image, the Warren Place elevation. And so to the right of that image is Warren Street. To the far left of the image is how you can see that we're stepping the building down by dropping it 2 stories to better relate to the existing townhomes at the edge of Warren Place. And we worked really hard with the neighborhood and with the BPDA to define a series of architectural characters and treatments that break the building into 3 distinct volumes. Next slide. This is a perspective rendering right from the corner of Warren Street and Warren Place. We're introducing a newly enhanced public realm, complete with street trees, a blue bike location, new sidewalk improvements, certainly an enhanced entry presence for the Urban League. And then you can see the red brick materiality as well as the warmth of the stone that's carrying from the existing buildings into our proposed building. Next slide. This is a view, more of a residential view of the side street of Warren Place, looking back toward Warren Street in the far distance. And we're really happy to see how we integrated the mansard roof architectural treatment, picking that up from the adjacent neighbors and applying that to the building along with the bay fronts, and then working hard to screen the parking at the base of the building. Next slide. This is a view looking northbound toward the city, and you can see the relationship with the Gordon Conwell building and really trying to create a civic presence and a civic nature to the ground floor experience with the Urban League, and then tying that into the residential volume above. Next slide. And this is our final slide that just goes back to the Live, Work, Connect. Again, 65 income restricted units, plus or minus 125 construction jobs, the walking score of 93, and we are seeking LEED Gold for this project. And that concludes our presentation. We'd be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the board?
Yeah, I do have a question. First of all, I really like what you've done here, and we welcome the affordable housing. But I heard early in the presentation, there was some community concerns. If I could have a little bit more detail on that, I'd appreciate it.
Sure. So I think that the general perspective that we've heard is that there is community concern around any project seeking variances. And so I think we understand the extent to which the zoning in Boston limits these types of development opportunities. And so obviously we can't proceed as of right. And I think that that's really been the driving concern.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, additional questions or comments? All right, hearing and seeing none. Motion is in order.
So moved.
Seconded.
Call for a vote. Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Great project. Congratulations and good luck.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 21, right? Yeah. 21, request authorization to adopt a 10th amendment to the report and decision on the Orchard Park Revitalization Chapter 121A project, which approves the removal of 2,454 square feet from the project site and to take all related actions. Sean.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the board, Secretary Paul Hemus, and Director Jemison. My name is Sean Meehill, and I'm a member of the Office of General Counsel. I'm here to respectfully request that the Boston Redevelopment Authority adopt a 10th amendment to the report and decision on the Orchard Park Revitalization Chapter 121A project. The 10th amendment to the report and decision would approve the removal of approximately 2,450 square feet from the Chapter 121A project site. On August 8th, 2022, the Orchard Park Revitalization Corporation and the Adams Orchard Limited Partnership jointly filed for the removal of this parcel. I should note that the Orchard Park Revitalization Corporation is a nonprofit corporation of which the Boston Housing Authority is the sole member. This parcel, otherwise known as Parcel D, 2D, is part of the lease between the Orchard Park Revitalization Corporation and the Adams Orchard Limited Partnership. Parcel D is a remnant parcel that was never included in any of the housing that was developed on the rest of the larger parcel. Indeed, Parcel 2D has never been part of the physical 128 development site. It remains undeveloped to this day and is fenced off from the remainder of the 121A development site. If this 10th amendment is approved, Orchard Park Revitalization Corporation intends to sell Parcel 2D to FW Web Company. FW Web Company is building its headquarters on an adjacent parcel at 55115 Hampton Street, and Parcel 2D would be used by FW Web Company for parking. It should be noted that the BPDA approved FW Web Company project at its October 14th, 2021 board meeting. I'm happy to answer questions you might have.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments from the board? Okay, hearing and seeing none, a motion is in order.
So moved.
Seconded.
Roll call for a vote. Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, item number 22. Request authorization to approve the institutional master plan notification form for renewal and extension of the Dana-Farber Cancer Institute institutional master plan dated April 22nd, 2022, pursuant to section 80D-5.2E, section 80D-6, and section 80D-8 of the Boston Zoning Code, and to take all related actions. Tyler.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the board. Today I'm presenting 3 institutional master plans for renewal with no proposed changes. The first of those being the proposal before you, the Dana-Farber Cancer Institute plan for renewal for the years of 2022 through 2024. This is a renewal of the existing institutional master plan that was board approved in April of 2007. At this time, Dana-Farber Cancer Institute does not anticipate any new institutional projects for the term of the renewed institutional master plan. The original institutional master plan approved in 2007 has been renewed once before in May of 2017. Furthermore, the review process on this Institutional Master Plan renewal began in June of 2022. Since that time, no comments were received. The comment period for this institutional master plan renewal ended July 30th, 2022. Now, before I turn it over to Wendy and Darren to begin the presentation, I want to say thank you to the elected officials and city agencies who helped review the proposed Dana-Farber Cancer Institute institutional master plan renewal. Thank you.
Thank you, Tyler. Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the board. My name is Wendy Gettleman. I am the Vice President of Facilities Management and Real Estate at Dana-Farber, and I'm pleased to be here this evening. If you could move to the second slide. Just a few of facts pertaining to Dana-Farber, that our mission is split between research and clinical care. We have $570 million of total research funding, and $220 million of it is from NIH, with over 1,000 clinical trials. On our clinical side, we have 364,000 plus annual outpatient visits and almost 200,000 infusion treatments annually. And we employ 6,357 employees, of which 28% live in the city of Boston. Next page, please. I think Tyler reviewed this information, but just quickly, our original institutional master plan was approved in May of 2007 with a 10-year term. The 2017 institutional master plan notification form for extension was approved in May of 17 and extended until May of 2022. And we filed in April of this year for an extension. Next slide, please. The diagram on the left is the Dana-Farber IMP area as shown on the Boston zoning map. And then you can see a plan of our owned buildings in red on the right. If you could move to this next slide. And to give you an overview of our 2007 IMP projects, the Yawkey Center for Cancer Care, which is 275,000 square feet above grade and has about 100 exam rooms, 150 infusion rooms, and 20 consult rooms, plus other amenity space, was completed in the fall of 2010 and occupied in January of 2011. After that, we had planned and completed a two-phase of structure, which is the Dana building parking levels and drop-off area, which you see on the bottom diagram, actually photograph. That was completed in the summer of 2013. And also we did Dana building and Mayor building facade improvements, which you can also see also completed in the fall of 2013. All three of those projects were outlined in the original IMP. As far as community benefits, Dana-Farber does pay pilot payments. The FY21 contribution was $1.533 million. Our workforce development establishes and funds several programs for training and also exposure to employment opportunities in the field. We have a number of public health initiatives, including our mammography van, mammography suite at Whittier Street Health Center, several community health needs assessments, sun safety and skin cancer prevention, tobacco control programs, just to name a few. On the DON piece and social determinants of health strategy, we have over $2 million invested in several areas, which include more than 12 community-based organizations support in areas from grants, making strategies, homeless prevention, food access, and transportation related areas. Next slide, please. So this is just the live, work, and connect facts again, just as a refresher, and I am complete with the presentation, and thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any questions or comments from the board? Okay, well, on behalf of the board, thank you for your organization and everything that it brings to the city. We really appreciate these numbers speak for themselves. So with that, a motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call for a vote. Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Item number 23. Request authorization to approve the institutional master plan notification form for renewal and extension of the Brigham and Women's Hospital institutional master plan dated May 9th, 2022 pursuant to section 80D-5.2E, section 80D-6, and section 80D-8 of the Boston Zoning Code, and to take all related actions. Tyler.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the board. The second institutional master plan renewal proposal before you is Brigham and Women's Hospital for the renewal of the years 2022 through 2024. This is a renewal of the existing institutional master plan that was board approved in February of 2010. At this time, Brigham and Women's does not anticipate any new institutional projects for the term of the renewed institutional master plan. The original institutional master plan approved in February of 2010 has been renewed once before for a period of 2 years in August of 2020. Furthermore, the review process on this institutional master plan renewal began in May of 2022. Since that time, 2 comment letters of support have been received. The comment period for this institutional master plan renewal ended July 30th, 2022. Now, before I turn it over to Long Nugent to begin the presentation, I want to say thank you to the elected officials, city agencies who helped review the proposed Brigham and Women's institutional master plan renewal. Thank you.
Thank you, Tyler. Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board, Director Jameson, and Madam Secretary Paul-Hamus. My name is Long Nguyen. I'm the Director of Design at Brigham and Women's Hospital, located in the Longwood Medical and Academic Center area, and I'm here tonight to request approval for a 2-year extension and renewal of Brigham's institutional master plan with unchanged plans until August of 2024. Over the past 2 years, the Brigham has prioritized meeting the needs of healthcare challenges presented by the COVID-19 pandemic, and as such, the Brigham is not proposing additional projects or land area at this time. Next slide, please. As a quick update on our approved projects to date, the Hale Building for Transformative Medicine, the Mass Mental Health Center offices, campus additions, including the NICU and the ED, as well as Stoneman Centennial Park have been completed. Next slide, please. Our meaningful community partnerships has resulted in the development of housing and a community center at Mosaic on the Fenway, or on the Riverway, with the Roxbury Tenants of Harvard, as well as constructed and delivered a facility for use and ownership by the Commonwealth for clients of the Department of Mental Health at Fenwood Inn. Next slide, please. We hope to commence design on Parcel C soon, a research building project that would support much needed research space and which was approved in 2012. Next slide, please. We are proud of our robust community benefits and partnerships, which have enabled us to deliver exceptional healthcare education, easily accessible and essential healthcare services to our Boston communities. Our community benefits include over $6 million worth of pilot contributions in 2021, as well as providing care within the community at Southern Jamaica Plain Health Center, as well as Brookside Community Health Center. Next slide, please. To conclude, a few words about the Brigham. As you may appreciate, and as the case with most healthcare institutions, we have been on the forefront of providing essential care during the COVID-19 pandemic over the past 2 years. As we continue to do that, we are also very proud to provide care for over 50,000 inpatients and 1.5 million outpatients annually, be the recipient of over $700 million worth of research funding, which supports groundbreaking research, advancing treatment and care for our sickest patients through innovation and discovery, as well as employ over 16,000 employees, about 34% of those being City of Boston residents. Thank you for your time. I would also like to acknowledge that Mary Marshall is here with me, and we're happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, thank you so much. Do we have any questions or comments from the board? Okay, echo everything that has been, all the great accomplishments that you cited here. I know Brigham Women's is near and dear to my heart, as are many, and we're just, again, really appreciative of the service that you provide to Boston and just the world, really. So thank you. With that, a motion is in order.
With gratitude, so moved.
Second.
Roll call for a vote. Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Mr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Thank you very much. We'll see you in a couple of
Thank
years.
you. Bye.
Okay. All right. Item number 24, request authorization to approve the institutional master plan notification form for renewal and extension of the Tufts Medical Center institutional master plan dated June 6, 2022, pursuant to section 80D-5.2E, section 80D-6, and section 80D-8 of the Boston Zoning Code, and to take all related actions. Tyler.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the board. The third and final institutional master plan renewal proposal before you is the Tufts Medical Center plan for renewal for the years of 2022 through 2024. This is a renewal of the existing institutional master plan that was board approved in July of 2012. At this time, Tufts Medical Center does not anticipate any new institutional projects for the term of the renewed institutional master plan. Furthermore, the review process on this institutional master plan renewal began in June of 2022. Since that time, no comments were received. The comment period for this institutional master plan renewal ended on July 30th, 2022. Now, before I turn it over to the Tufts Medical Center staff to begin the presentation, I want to say thank you to the elected officials and city agencies who helped review the proposed Tufts Medical Center institutional master plan renewal. Thank you.
Thank you, Tyler. Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board, Secretary Polimas, Director Jemison, for allowing us to come before you tonight. My name is Diana Richardson. I have the honor of serving as the Chief Operating Officer at Tufts Medical Center. And as Tyler indicated, I'm here to request a 2-year extension to our 2012 institutional master plan. We have no significant projects planned during the next 2-year time frame. Next slide. We have about 6,700 employees here at Tufts Medical Center. 28% of those, including myself, are residents of the city of Boston, so significant impact there. We serve 48 accredited medical education programs with commitment to education. And in FY20, we actually reached 62,000 Boston residents through our COVID relief programs. Next slide. Just a little bit about our mission statement: to heal, comfort, teach, and learn. Next slide. Our campus is a 17-building campus located in Chinatown in the Theater District, within walking distance of all of the major downtown areas. Most of our buildings are owned. We do have a few significant leased real estate items as well. Next slide. We did not have a lot of projects on our 2012 IMP, but they were all completed. Most significantly was our cafe renovation, dining pavilion enclosure, and in kind of updating of our lobby area. The dining pavilion enclosure actually served us incredibly well during COVID. We were able to repurpose that for everything from staff education on PPE to COVID testing and staging of supplies. In addition, we did a number of interior improvements to upgrade our campus. Next slide. Our community outreach is very significant, not only through Chinatown, but through many of Boston neighborhoods. Just a couple of samplings of some of the things we have done in 2021, partnering with some community partners. We were able to reach 2,500 Dorchester residents, focusing specifically on behavioral health and youth violence prevention. And we've had a number of partnerships and efforts to reduce smoking and really contribute to tobacco and nicotine prevention in Chinatown, reaching 1,200 residents there. In 2022, our total pilot contribution was approximately $4 million. Next slide. I'm extraordinarily proud of our COVID support throughout the pandemic and continuing till today. We vaccinated over 108,000 individuals. That number grows every day. Provided 292,000 community test results and identified 20,800 positive COVID patients. We have provided the city's only walk-in COVID testing throughout the first year of the pandemic, set up mobile clinics in Chinatown, testing and vaccinating vulnerable seniors really at their home, and visited several senior living facilities as well. Next slide. And then just recapping that we are delighted to be here and request a 2-year extension. And here for any questions.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any questions or comments from the board? Okay, with pleasure, and on behalf of the board, again, thank you so much to Tufts Medical Center and everything, all the relief and the services that you've provided, specifically around COVID, and to our Chinatown neighbors. So just thank you. Okay, with that, motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call for a vote. Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, we're gonna take one more before the break. So item number 2025, request authorization to adopt a first amendment to the report and decision of Old Colony Phase 4 Bonds Limited Partnership for a zoning deviation related to the Old Colony Phase 4 Chapter 120A project pursuant to Chapter 121A of the General Laws and Acts of 1960, Chapter 652, both as amended. Caitlin.
Good evening, Madam Chair, Director Jemison, Madam Secretary, members of the board. Again, my name is Caitlin Coppinger, Senior Project Manager in Development Review. The item before you is the proposed adoption of the First Amendment to the decision and report on the Old Colony Phase 4 for a zoning deviation. As approved by this board in April of 2021, the Old Colony Phase 4 project will build a 6-story building containing 104 affordable housing units as a part of the overall Old Colony redevelopment. The site design emphasized low-impact development, optimized walkable streets, open spaces, green stormwater, and parking and pavement strategies. Since BPDA board approval, the Coastal Flood Resiliency Overlay District, or better known as CFROD, was adopted into the zoning code. Old Colony Phase 4 falls within this new overlay district and became subject to the new design guidelines. In order to comply with CFROD, the new height of the building will need to be 72 feet 6 inches, 72 feet 6 inches, rather than the previously approved 72 feet. Tonight, we're asking the board to adopt the First Amendment to the report and decision to codify the zoning change, as it allows for this new all-affordable building to be built to the city's new design standards for areas that may be impacted by coastal flooding in the future. There's no presentation tonight, but I'm joined by Darcy Jameson from Beacon Communities and Carla Chaffee from Nixon Peabody if there are any questions on this item.
Okay, thank you. Questions or comments from the board? All right, hearing and seeing none, a motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call for a vote. Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Mr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So before we get started, before we start our public hearing, we're going to take a 5-minute break. So we will come back at 5:50 and resume the public hearing portion of the agenda. So see you in 5. Thanks. All right, welcome back, everyone. So we are now moving on to agenda item number 29. It's the public hearing. So simultaneous Chinese interpretation are being provided for this meeting using language interpretation function within Zoom. We ask that you be patient in case of any technical issues. Language interpretation will not be enabled until instructions on how to access interpretation have been interpreted into Cantonese and Mandarin. Once interpretation has been enabled, a globe icon will appear. A reminder to all that are speaking today, we ask that everyone speak slowly for the interpreters. If you're speaking too quickly, I may interrupt you and ask you to speak slower. Thank you. To enable interpretation for Cantonese and Mandarin, please click on the globe icon at the bottom of your screen, and by selecting Mandarin for Mandarin and Cantonese for Cantonese. You must also mute original audio. So Anna and Terry, will you now please interpret the instructions that I just gave?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll start. Good evening, everyone. My name is Anna. I'll be your Cantonese interpreter for the meeting tonight. 大家好，我係 Anna， 我係你今天晚上嘅廣東話同聲翻譯員。陣間你見到個地球嘅時候，撳落去揀廣東話 Cantonese 嘅圖標，咁就係廣東話嘅翻譯頻道噶啦。如果用手機嘅話咧，麻煩大家撳個3個點，再揀更多，亦都會得廣東話嘅翻譯頻道喎。多謝大家參與呢個會議，陣間見。Thank you so much. Your turn, Terry.
Thank you, Anna. Hi everyone, my name is Terry. I'll be your Mandarin interpreter for the meeting tonight. 大家好，我叫 Terry， 会是你们的国语翻译。待会呢，你在屏幕下方会看到一个地球仪的图标，你点选地球仪的图标，然后再选择 Mandarin 普通话，你就可以听到国语的同声传译了。如果你是用手机或者是平板电脑上来的话呢，你可以选择屏幕下方的3个点，然后再选择语言的选项，也可以进入到 Mandarin， 也就是普通话的频道。好，谢谢大家 ，Thank you. Back to you, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. And if we could now turn on the interpretation channel, and we'd ask you to go ahead and join. So we'll give everybody a second. You should see the globe icon there. Okay, so if you are having any difficulty activating interpretation, please call the phone number on the screen. Please take note of that phone number on the screen. If you have any difficulties later in the meeting, you can call that number. The project presentation has been translated into Cantonese and Mandarin, and it is available on the BPDA website at bostonplan.org/about-us/bpda-board/board-meetings. Please take note of the website address on the screen to enable the translated project presentation. This is a public hearing before the Boston Redevelopment Authority doing business as the Boston Planning and Development Agency, being held in conformance with the sections 80A-2, 80B-5, and 80C-5 of the Boston Zoning Code to consider the proposed third amendment to the second amended and restated development plan for 49, 51, and 63 Melcher Street, within planned development area number 69, South Boston, the 100 acres. This hearing was duly advertised on July 27, 2022 in the Boston Herald. This is a BPDA hearing on a proposed petition by the agency. Staff members will first present their case and are subject to questioning by members of the agency. Thereafter, anyone who chooses to testify about the proposed project will be afforded an opportunity. We are taking support and opposition at the same time. If you're planning to testify, please take time now to verify that your computer microphone is active. Click on the hand icon on your Zoom control panel, and this will signal to the staff that you would like to speak. When your hand is raised, it will be blue. If you're calling into the meeting and would like to testify, please dial *9 to raise your hand. When I call for all testimony, staff will announce your name and allow you to talk. You must unmute your microphone and your webcam will not be active. In an effort to accommodate all who would like to speak about this proposal, each person will be given up to 2 minutes to comment. BPDA staff will indicate when 30 seconds remain. At that time, please conclude your remarks so that the hearing may continue and others may be heard. At the conclusion of all oral testimony, any email testimony will be read aloud. Finally, the proponents are allowed a period of 5 to 10 minutes for rebuttal if they so desire. Mr. Nick Carter will now begin the presentation.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good evening. We will be tabling this item for a month. Thank you.
Okay, so with that, I need a motion to table this item.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call for a vote. Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes. We are tabling this one. Okay. So back to item number 26. Request authorization to issue a determination waiving further review pursuant to section 80A-6 of the zoning code in connection with the second notice of project change for the proposed development on parcel 6 of the Massport Marine Terminal located on Vid Kennedy Avenue within the Raymond L. Flynn Marine Park, which reduces the parcel 6B project building square footage from 62,000 square feet to 35,217 square feet, reduces on-site surface parking spaces from 63 to 42 spaces, and reduces the overall project site from approximately 6.51 acres to approximately 3.94 acres, and to take all related actions. We have Dan and Chris.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board, Director Jameson, and Secretary Polhemus. My name is Daniel Polanco. I'm the project manager for the proposed notice of project change before you tonight at Massport Marine Terminal, parcel 6B. The project originally received board approval in May of 2018 for construction of 3 of the 4 maritime industrial buildings on Massport Marine Terminal, parcel 6. On May 13, 2022, the proponent, Pilot Seafood Properties 3 LLC, filed a notice of project change to the BPDA in relation to the project's reduction of the facility and reduction of parking spaces. Under this 2022 NPC, Pilot now proposes to modify the parcel 6B building, reducing the GFA from 62,000 square feet to 35,045 square feet. In addition to the reduction of the faculty gross floor area, the parking spaces originally proposed will be reduced from 63 to 42. Furthermore, as part of this NPC, parcel 6C has been eliminated from the plan, later to be designated for future parcel 5C. The BPDA sponsored. The BPDA sponsored a public meeting on August 9th to notify and take comments from the public for the change of this gross square area and reduction of parking spaces as well. Comment period ended August 10th. Thank you for your time and consideration tonight. I have the development team here with me today if you have any questions in regards to the proposed changes. I will now hand it over to Chris Bush, who will discuss the planning context. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Dan, and thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board, Secretary Polhemus, and Director Jameson. I'm Chris Bush, Assistant Deputy Director for Climate Change and Environmental Planning. Here to provide just some planning context for the project, which is located within the Raymond L. Flynn Marine Park. This project is appropriate and consistent with the BPDA's recent Marine Park Master Plan update, which is the growth and land use plan for the park. The Master Plan update supports the park's mission of serving as a Boston-based jobs growth center, as well as a reserve for general industrial and marine industrial uses. The update also provides guidance on how to balance the economic growth and expanding life science industries in the park with support of water-dependent uses through new capital investments in marine infrastructure, as well as transportation planning and climate resilience. Next slide, please, Dan. The Pilot Seafood Processing Facility does support an important regional seafood processing cluster, also providing important employment opportunities for the Boston area. Seafood processing is also consistent with the regulatory land use guidance as Marine Park is part of the South Boston designated port area and subject to regulations that preserve and promote marine industrial uses. Additionally, the project site is located within the Massport Marine Terminal, which is dedicated largely to marine industrial use under the Master Plan update, also conforming with the Maritime Reserve Harbor Park Subdistrict zoning. Due to this parcel's proximity to Boston Harbor, it's also being designed to respond to sea level rise and future coastal storms through the elevation of first floor and protection of critical mechanical systems. With that, I will hand it off to the project team to provide more details. Thank you.
I think they are on, but I don't know if they logged off because of
No, hello.
are they?
Hi, I'm Catherine Maines with Pilot Seafood Properties 3, LLC, and I wish you all good evening. Thank you, members of the board, Madam Chair Rojas, Secretary Paul Demas, and Director Jemison. Ready to talk about this one. This is context. Next slide, please. All right, we are relocating 2 existing marine park seafood businesses to the Massport Marine Terminal. We are providing these businesses the opportunity to extend their ground lease and modernize operations. We are preserving marine industrial uses, and we are supporting South Boston Seafood Cluster with keeping 2 very local businesses, as you see from the graphic, and their marine industrial jobs in Boston. Next slide, please. FJ O'Hara and Pangea Shellfish will be using loading bays on either side of the building. And we've got optimized truck operations because land is very expensive, separate entrances and defined loading areas, and our designer, Cheryl Tugayas, worked with Boston Sword and Tuna and will be working with us on our future MMT projects, and works very closely with Elizabeth Stifel of Boston Civic Design and Marla Cumming of EDIC to emphasize the marine industrial nature and attractive buildings. Next slide, please. So originally, Parcel 6 was permitted by BPDA Article 80 as a project in phases. And Boston Sword and Tuna opened April 2020. They're already expanding. Our notice of project change relates to FJ O'Hara Pangea, which did not need the 62,000 square foot building that we had anticipated just conjecturally, because that would maximize the use of space. And Massport asked us to relinquish 6B subparcel 2 and 6C, and that was memorialized in their board vote in November of last year. Next slide, please. And that just memorialized it. Next slide, please. The exciting part for anyone in traffic during busy seafood processing pickup times is the truck staging area. We have set aside 3 lanes. Big rigs, I think 9 or 12 big rigs will fit in there waiting for a loading bay to open for FJ O'Hara. That will enormously improve flow of traffic and motion of traffic, because it can get to be a parking lot with trucks on the roads. The truck loading areas, those are the bays that they back into. Main building area, vehicular parking, those are a few guests, but mostly employees. They're traveling because public transportation so far is not available when they are showing up to work, so they have to drive. Next slide. We've worked a lot on resiliency, and we have met and exceeded City of Boston's resiliency requirements and Massport's more stringent requirements, and we are very satisfied with that. It's been a challenge engineering with this level and proximity to the ocean. Next slide, please. So this just goes through the Article 80 board vote with the project anticipated to be in phases. And each phase was going to get a separate cooperation agreement, even though they had the underlying Article 80 board vote. So where we are is what Dan explained, and we will have a cooperation agreement when it is fully developed in consultation with BPDA legal staff. Next slide, please. And back to our talking points. Next slide, please. Thank you. I'm happy to have any questions.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any questions or comments from the board? Okay, hearing and seeing none, a motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call for a vote. Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Mark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Thank you, and good luck. Okay, item number 27, request authorization to adopt a second amendment to the report and decision on the City Square Elderly Housing Chapter 121A project in the Charlestown Urban Renewal Area to approve the transfer of the project to City Square Elderly Housing Limited Partnership as the new entity and refinancing of the project for interior renovations and improvements, to enter into a second amendment to the land disposition agreement and to take all related actions. John.
Thank you so much, and good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board, Secretary Polhamus, and Director Jemison. My name is John Spillane. I'm an attorney in the Office of General Counsel. Before you today is the request for authorization to approve the second amendment to the report and decision for the City Square Elderly Housing Chapter 121A project located in Charlestown. The project is located at Park and Warren Streets in Charlestown and was partly constructed on urban renewal parcel P12B in Charlestown Urban Renewal Project area. The project consists of a single building containing 120 affordable rental units for low and moderate income elderly and handicapped persons. To provide background, on December 20th, 1984, the board voted to adopt the report and decision for City Square Elderly. City Square Elderly Housing, Inc., a nonprofit corporation, was designated as the Chapter 121A entity to own, operate, and manage the project. It was originally financed by a 100% direct loan and mortgage from HUD's Section 202 program, together with a 100% Section 8 rental assistance for the term of the mortgage. In 2004, the board voted to approve and adopt the First Amendment to the report and decision for the project, with the BPDA allowing the owner to refinance and perform renovations. And then on August 9th, 2022, City Square Elderly Housing, Inc. filed their application for a second amendment to the report and decision for the project to allow the transfer of the project to a new applicant and refinance the project. The application seeks BPA board approval for the following: to refinance the existing MHFA loan with a new loan from the MHFA, approval of transfer of the project from City Square Elderly Housing, Inc., the current owner, to City Square Elderly Housing Limited Partnership, the new applicant, and to authorize the director to enter into a second amendment to the land disposition agreement and any and all other documents deemed necessary and appropriate in connection with the project. The applicant seeks to refinance the project through MHFA's 223F program and proceeds to undertake capital improvements to the project, including site improvements, improvements to the exterior of the building, updates to the interior spaces such as bathrooms and kitchens. These improvements were based on a capital needs assessment that was conducted by an independent third party. Additionally, the owner seeks approval to transfer the ownership interest of the project to the new applicant. This transfer would allow the new controlling entity, City Square Elderly Housing Limited Partnership, to utilize operating funds to finance an on-location wellness program for the elderly residents. There will be a continuation of affordability restrictions under the new MHFA loan and the MHFA regulatory agreement. And the project will continue to be used for affordable housing for elderly persons. It is the recommendation of the staff to approve the adoption of the second amendment to the report and decision and authorize the director to enter into the second amendment to the land disposition agreement and any and all all other documents deemed necessary and appropriate in connection with this project. I'm happy to answer any questions, and I believe we also have James Downing of City Square and his attorney, Andrew Carr, as well.
Okay, thank you, John. Do we have any questions or comments from the board? Okay, hearing and seeing none, a motion is in order.
So moved.
Second it.
Call for a vote. Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Thank you. Okay, item number 28. Request authorization to issue a certification of approval in accordance with Article 80E Small Project Review of the Zoning Code for the construction of 19 residential rental units, including 3 IDP units, 12 surface parking spaces, and 24 bicycle storage spaces located at 582 Cambridge Street, subject to continuing BRA design review and to take all related actions. Nick and Kathleen.
It will actually be Jared Stolle who will be doing the planning context. Thank you. But thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board, Director Jemison, and Secretary Polhemus. We are here before you this evening to discuss the proposed project at 582 Cambridge Street in Alston, which filed its small project review application with the BPDA on December 10th, 2022. The project will bring 19 homeownership units to the neighborhood, including 3 IDP units, which will be available for purchase at a variety of AMIs, one of which will be a 1-bed unit and 2 of which will be 2 beds. The project is transit-oriented and will be offering 1-year MBTA passes for residents, and will also be making a $15,000 donation to the Parks Department. Additionally, the project includes a number of sustainability features such as a green and solar-ready roof, high-performance building envelope, and high-efficiency appliances. I'll now turn to the neighborhood planner for the project, Jared Stolle, to walk you through the planning context for this project before the development team takes over. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. Good evening, and thank you, Chair Rojas, members of the board, Secretary Polhemus, and Director Jemison. I'm Jared Staley, and I'm the neighborhood planner covering this project. The proposed project is not within a recent land use planning study, but is within the recently adopted Alston Brighton Mobility Study. City staff also referred to other citywide plans such as Imagine Boston 2030 and Go Boston 2030 in a review of the project. We consider the existing context as we reviewed this project as well. The proposal is within a 3F 4000 zoning subdistrict and adjacent to a local convenience commercial subdistrict. While the project will need relief from the Zoning Board of Appeals, its height and density respond to the site's proximity to the MBTA Green Line, several bus routes, and is within a half-mile of the MBTA commuter rail. In addition, the proposal is sited within walking distance of a major neighborhood commercial area. These conditions support many of the city's goals in reducing private vehicle trips, increasing active transportation, and promoting walkable neighborhoods. Next slide. During the proponent's review period, city staff focused on reducing the impact of the proposal on the neighboring residential structure, affordability, and ensuring ease of transit access. Pending ZBA and your approval, the proponent should continue its conversations with the BPA urban design staff. Thank you, and I will now turn it over to the development team to present the project in more detail.
Thank you, Jared. Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board, Director Jemison, and Secretary Polhemus. Jeff Drago with Drago and Toscano, representing Odessa Capital, the owner and developer of 582 Cambridge Street. And I also have William Lee from Monty French Design as the architects who you'll also hear from. I'm not sure if we can go to the next slide. Great. There's a slide before that. I don't know if it came up. It's an intro slide. A few before, I think we missed a couple. Yeah, then maybe it's not coming up. I'll go over the project, that's okay. So as was mentioned, this is a project located on the busy section of Cambridge Street. We're located right in front of an MBTA bus route. We are within walking distance to the MBTA T station, making this an ideal location for those folks that would be purchasing this condos and using them as different modes of transportation to commute to work. As was mentioned, we are seeking to raise the existing 3-unit building. It is 2 separate parcels to combine the 2 lots and to erect a 4-story building with 19 condominium units and 12 parking spaces. If we could go to the next slide, please. The total, that's great. That shows the board, the contours of the two lots and the surrounding area. We do have residential and multifamily residential around us, but we also have commercial and are located right within walking districts of a commercial district. Our lot sizes are 13,893 square feet, and our gross square footage of the building is 19,959 square feet. Next slide, please. This is one of the lots. This is the existing 3-unit building. It is dated, and as part of our proposal, we're combining the empty lot along with this lot and combining them for the structure that we showed at the beginning. We did also, to mention, have a very robust community process working with the ACA, the BAIA, and neighbors to reduce the size and scope of the building and reduce the unit count. But in doing so, we were also still able to keep an increased affordability on site with 3 units at 16% affordability. And we were also to be able to change this project through the process from rental to condominium home ownership. Next slide, please. This just is our site plan, so it shows the building along Cambridge Street, the 4 stories, and part of this process, along with increasing affordability, is to have a number of public realm improvements, and that'll include a pedestrian zone, streetscape and landscape area, and a sitting area that will complement the public bus station and route that's right in front of us. At this time, I'd like to turn it over to William Lee from Monty French Designs to go over his plans, and we could go to the next slide.
Thank you, Jeff, Chairwoman, members of the board, appreciate it. Actually, if we could back up a slide for a second, I'd just like to highlight, this site is located in sort of a transitional point in the neighborhood. And so just at a site planning level, we've tried to acknowledge that on the left side of the site, keeping our setback as much as possible to align with 590 Cambridge Street, and then moving east along Cambridge Street towards the right, the building steps back forward, still maintaining a generous front yard, but acknowledging the transition to the more commercial parts of the neighborhood. Next slide. Oh, that's the wrong way. There we go. A significant portion of this project is focused on the public realm improvements along the front of the building. And so in looking at the complete streets guidelines, along with the context of the neighborhood, we've modulated the setback along the front here so that there's generous, not only public pedestrian zone, green space and furnishing zone along Cambridge Street, but also within the frontage zone on the lot, making sure that we're using all opportunities to have landscape permeable paving. We would be including some natural screening elements along the residential portion of the building on the right-hand side, integrating planters and public benches. There's a large bus stop for the 57 along with a couple of other bus lines that are very busy. So, trash cans, benches, screening, that sort of thing. Next slide. So here you can see a front elevation of the building. Architecturally, we've focused on this transitional point in the neighborhood to inform the design of the building. So the left mass you see that's brought forward relates to the commercial in the neighborhood, and the predominant mass at the rear is broken into 3 sections, acknowledging a more residential sort of row house typology that extends to the rear of the lot. Next slide. This is a view from an abutting property into the rear of our lot. The majority of the units have access to corners of the building, so lots of opportunity for outdoor space and light and air. So the rear portion of the lot is actually elevated a full story. So doing some private patios, permeable paving, and lots of rich private green space at the rear is a great opportunity in this project. Next slide. This is looking to the southwest on the Cambridge Street sidewalk. On the left, you can see the front entry to the building, using some canopies as natural shading elements. The public realm planters that are in our frontage zone create some natural seating opportunities for people waiting for the bus or waiting for people that live in the building. The right-hand side, you can see the man with a bicycle. There's direct access into the bike room, along with guest parking spaces secured behind that planter. On the right-hand side of the image, you can see our green space and furnishing zone would be all permeable paving between the tree walls, ensuring that these new street trees that we're proposing have ample access to water. Next slide. This is a section through the site looking at a lot of these elements. So on the left-hand side, you've got Cambridge Street, a 5-foot greenscape furnishing zone, 10-foot pedestrian zone, which would be, typical concrete, and then our frontage zone transitioning back to permeable paving with green space planters and bike parking. These dimensions are all informed from the Complete Streets guidelines. As Cambridge Street is a neighborhood connector, we're trying to go above and beyond some of the dimensions wherever possible, but certainly meeting the minimums across the entire front of the site. Next slide. This is a diagrammatic section looking at some of the sustainable features that we would be including in this building. Our tendency is to push the building into an all-electric HVAC and ventilation suite of systems. So distributed heat pumps, minimize energy wasted through mechanical runs. We would be using ERVs to capture all of the energy that's invested in tempering the space while providing fresh air. Using our southern orientation on the rear of the property to get some natural shading while having large, openings of glass for light without undue heat gains. The front third of the roof is not currently programmed to anything. We have been in conversations with the neighborhood about the opportunity to use that for a solar photovoltaic system to offset the energy loads of the building, but also considering, given its size and area, maybe it makes more sense to do some green space, some sedum plantings and low intensive green roof systems. We would be using continuous air and insulation products and detailing to minimize thermal bridging, which not only improves the performance of the envelope, but actually increases the occupant health of the building, given that there's a reduced capacity for mold and mildew growth. Along with that, high efficiency openings, windows, patio doors, and then last but not least, taking every opportunity to use permeable pavings and landscaping to reinforce local ecology. Next slide.
I think that concludes the presentation. Madam Chair, members of the board, we're here to answer any questions. Thank you.
Okay, great. Any questions or comments from the board? All right, well, I appreciate all of the green features, sustainability features that you highlighted there. So very excited to see those. With that, I believe if there's no questions or comments, a motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, roll call for a vote. Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Thank you very much. Good luck.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on. So on to item number 30, contractual. So I need a motion to pay the bills.
I move that we pay our bills.
Second.
Roll call for a vote. Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Please pay the bills. And 31, personnel. Michael.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board, Madam Secretary, and Director Jemison. We have a few items for your consideration on the BRA agenda. We have one appointment with details listed in the board board memos. Ruben Cantor, Senior Advisor for Strategy and Operation in the Director's Office, effective September 19th, 2022. We have 3 travel requests with details listed in the board memos, and also have 2 departures with the details listed in the board memos as well. Catherine Tinlin, Administrative Assistant in Development Review Department, and Bonnie McGilpin, Director of Communications in Communications Department. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments from the board? Hearing and seeing none, motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call for a vote. Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Mr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
And finally, we have the director's update. Director Jemison. Oh, you're on mute, Director Jemison.
I'm sorry. Here we are 2 years into the pandemic, and I still have moments with the mute button, as we all seem to sometimes. Anyway, it's great to see you, board members. Thank you for your time and attention in advance of this board meeting and tonight. Also, thank all the staff who worked so hard to get these items before you. It's been another great board meeting. I did have a few highlights to share with you. You guys approved 4 new development projects this evening, 136 residential units. 77 of those units were income restricted. There's a developer cost estimate of $113 million in the terms of the project's value. They represent 293,000 square feet, and when constructed, 254 tradespeople will go to work. Guess what? There'll be 223 direct jobs, 135 indirect jobs. Sometimes in the process of this work, we have to say pass our condolences on to a family. One of the veterans of the agency, Nora Healy, who those of you who worked here a while back may remember, recently passed. She's a receptionist here for 40 years, retired a few years ago. She just passed yesterday, and we want to share our thoughts and prayers with her. I knew Nora when she was a staff person here at the agency back in the 90s. I did want to land briefly on one last major item. I want to say thank you to the board and to the staff who worked hard to bring about the DEI approval that you executed today. We're excited about the approval of this policy. It requests that developers include diversity, equity, and inclusion plans as part of their filings. While we already include that on our transactions related to land belonging to the agency, this proposal would request that developer proponents submit that anytime a large project review is requested. Development can be a catalyst to not only bring positive investment in neighborhoods and create good jobs and affordable housing, but it can also bring opportunities to create wealth for those who've been left out of the building boom. It helps us create a set of expectations, because in the end, expectations can be as reinforcing as rules. We look forward to working with both the development community and citizens in the implementation over the coming months, and using this information we gather to sharpen our focus and maybe make future policy changes to encourage this behavior. I want to say thank you again to the staff and to each of you board members for your preparation and time for the board meeting today. That ends my director's notes. Thank you again, and enjoy your August.
Okay, thank you. All right, so I need a motion to adjourn this meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call for a vote. Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone, and we'll see you next month. Cheers.